And bright for Glasgow, southwestern parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Just some hazy, thin upper cloud around. However, the southern half of the UK, once again, dry with long spells of sunshine to begin things once any patchy low cloud lifts and disappears. As a result, temperatures will rise quickly through the morning and it's going to be a hot day in places. The heat shifted slightly further west compared with Monday. We're talking about widely the mid-20s across England and Wales and up to 29 or 30 Celsius western England and east and north Wales. Cooler for the east coast and a little cooler for Scotland and Northern Ireland, but actually warmer compared with the last few days, low to mid-20s. Wednesday's a different story for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England. Here we've got some shower clouds appearing, some heavy downpours, especially for western Scotland. Otherwise, in between the showers, some sunshine and feeling warm once again, but the heat will continue to build in the south up to the mid-30s in places by Wednesday and Thursday.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome to Orlis Santi by Domes Resorts, and there's just 2 weeks left to see how you too could be enjoying the 5-star lifestyle. First, you can bank an incredible £60,000. We'll also give you a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000.
For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okwir, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
I think GB News is completely unique in the way that we interact with our viewers.
Our audience aren't afraid to have their say. They want their voices heard now, and they've got a channel where that can happen.
I find more and more as I'm wandering around, people come up to me and they say, we saw you on television. I say, oh yes, on what? On GB News.
Hello, are you the famous Sue? The whole crew hid me here now. We came to celebrate.
It's our job to be the eyes and ears of the viewers.
They are part of the GB News family, and I'm pleased to say it's a very large family.
And if people go to the time and trouble of listening and watching, then we've got to do a good job for them.
Well, I'm here, right in the epicentre of the protest.
Here we go again.
If you just tuned in, where have you been?
It is raucous here tonight.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Very good evening, good morning, live from London. This is GB News with the stories shaping Great Britain and America tonight.
I feel for the family it's an appalling crime that was committed. The main perpetrator will not be subject to any early release.
Breaking news, I will bring you the exclusive statement from one of the first responders to the death of PC Andrew Harper. It condemns the possibility that his killers could be eligible for early release, saying the government is spitting in the faces of police officers. As Andy Burnham begins his listening tour of the country, why won't he meet with PC Harper's mother? Also tonight.
To house a foreign national offender in El Salvador will be half the cost of housing foreign national offender in this country.
So Reform UK has promised a mass deportation of foreign nationals from Britain's prisons, taking a leaf out of President Trump's book. The party's Home Affairs spokesman, Zia Youssef, has revealed that offenders could be sent to countries like El Salvador to hang out with this lot. They look friendly, don't they? But is this a workable policy or just a good headline grabber? Also tonight.
Fans from everywhere in the world would gain immeasurably from this game-changing potential. It will transform football in their countries.
More strife for FIFA boss Gianni Infantino. Multiple football associations are pushing for him to resign in a blistering opening letter, calling for leadership that serves football, not seeks to command it. Can the embattled FIFA president cling on? Also.
Yes, sir. So, I wouldn't mind stepping out of the car and doing a breath test.
Look, you had 2 pints, you're over the limit. That's a 12-month ban and a criminal record.
Maybe we need to bring back these adverts because new research has found that August is the worst month of the year for drink driving accidents due to the number of summer events that create more opportunities to get behind the wheel after consuming alcohol. Just what can be done to confront this reckless behaviour? Also.
And this place was emblematic of it with the crime, the horrible crime. I think now, right now, it's better than it has been in years. Everybody's safe now. Everybody feels safe.
Well, the president is right about that. A year ago, National Guard troops were deployed onto the streets of Washington, D.C. in a move the Trump administration said was necessary to tackle crime. Just how are the stats holding out? GB News is on the ground in D.C. to tell all. But I am in London. I'm Beth Turner. This is The Late Show Live. Very warm welcome. Well, this is a little bit strange. I've rarely, if ever, I think, done the show from here in London. But I'm delighted to say that my panel is here this evening. Lewis Oakley is here with me, and Peter Blexley is also here this evening. And in America tonight, I'm joined by Victoria Churchill and Eric Ham. Good evening to you both over there in DC. I'm sorry that I'm not there to be with you, but I'm very grateful that you're with me here for the next 3 hours. So I'll be talking to you very shortly. But of course, I want to hear from you as well. gbnews.com/your say. Get in touch with me this evening, won't you? Right, our main news this evening, and a warning. The following content is extremely distressing because one of the first responders to the death of PC Andrew Harper has spoken out and issued a statement. You are the first people to hear this on GB News as we tip over midnight. He's condemning the possibility that the killers could be eligible for early release, saying that the government is spitting in the faces of police officers. Now, this is former officer Chris Bushnell, who had met with PC Harper, pictured there, on the day that he died, and later witnessed the vehicle dragging his colleague's body while waiting in a lay-by for the suspects who were fleeing the scene of a burglary. Now, Bushnell was ordered not to pursue the vehicle and was later told that PC Harper had been killed. Jesse Cole and Albert Bowers were convicted of manslaughter, but they are eligible to be freed in January under current early release plans. Now, despite Andy Burnham saying that he is far from accepting the situation, Downing Street said on Monday that it is not possible to make exemptions for 1 or 2 offenders convicted of manslaughter from the early release scheme. However, tonight, PC Harper's mother has told GB News the Prime Minister hasn't been in touch over the release. Writing in a statement, she said, "As the mother of PC Harper, you would think the Prime Minister would want to keep me informed as to the current situation on whether my son's killers will be released. After everything we've been through, this was simply letting down our family, other members of the police force, but most importantly, letting down my son." She said, "It feels like a betrayal." Since then, we have heard nothing more. So if Andy Burnham is so keen to meet the people, how about he comes and meets me? She says, "We've heard nothing from him since this started. I am ashamed of my government." Who better to talk to about this than former Scotland Yard Detective Peter Blexley, who is here with me in the studio. Peter, let me come to you. How unusual is it, first of all, to see a statement like this from one of the first responders on the day who tragically witnessed his colleague being dragged behind the car that these 2 perpetrators were in?
Former PC Chris Bushnell, he retired in 2022, witnessed something which he has readily said is going to haunt him for the rest of his days. He's had counselling, and I wish him nothing but the very best as he tries to move forward with his life.
Absolutely.
The horrors that he experienced seeing PC Harper being dragged behind that vehicle, having had a cup of tea with his colleague, his pal, earlier on that day. Yeah, absolutely shocking. But there's many moving parts to this story. I just checked the change.org petition just before we came on air. That now sits at over 899,000 signatures. So that shows the depth of feeling, I think, towards the potential early release of these 2 verminous pieces of garbage. There were, of course, 3. The driver got a longer sentence, 16 years. But again, those sentences, 16 for the driver, 13 for these 2, lamentably lenient, absolutely appalling. They should have received much, much more than that. And the front page of the Times says today, i.e. Tuesday, that Burnham's demanding a plan to keep them in jail. But of course, we've had Downing Street and the Home Office telling us there's no way that that can be done. So much more to come on this story. I think I speak for many, many people, clearly, who have signed that petition when we say they should stay in jail.
Yeah. Just to look a little bit more at this statement, Peter, Mr Bushnell said, "I've seen people die before. I've seen suicides." He was in the West Berks dog unit when PC Harper was killed. He said, "But this was beyond brutal. It was awful." And he visits the scene every year to pay tribute. He's received counselling, as you said, and support from the Police Federation. But what struck me, and I keep thinking about this story, that the 2 that are being let out were 17 at the time of the incident, and they weren't driving the vehicle. So there's a little bit of me that is the mother of a 17-year-old who knows how stupid they can be, how impulsive and how reckless they can be, that feels that maybe these 2 should get a second chance. And then I hear and I read about how they behaved in the trial. And that, I think, tells us a lot. What does it tell you with your experience?
OK, let's talk about those 2 young adults as they were. They were utterly disrespectful to the entire court proceedings, therefore heaping more hurt on the Harper family and everybody who loved and adored Andrew. They showed nothing but contempt for the criminal justice system. And I confidently state that I think it highly unlikely that they will be released from prison as rehabilitated and reformed members of the public who want to knuckle down, get a job, work very hard, 9 to 5, pay their taxes and otherwise contribute to society. I very much doubt that is going to be the situation. They were way old enough to know the difference between right and wrong, and they went on a criminal venture together. And that criminal venture led to the death of a wonderful young man who, on the night he died, was at the end of his shift, taking his kid off, getting out of his uniform, getting ready to go home, because the following day his annual leave was starting and he was going on honeymoon. When that call came in, like a dedicated public servant, he responded. He is the best of us and he is no longer with us. And that is a tragedy.
Lewis, let me come to you on that. So powerful, Peter, genuinely. And as I say, I'm told you've got a 17-year-old as well, haven't you? So you maybe know a little bit of what I say when we talk about the fact that 17-year-olds can find themselves, that Peter would take dispute with that, in a situation that turns tragic. They had been stealing a quad bike theft. If people aren't familiar with the detail, these three young men together had been stealing this quad bike, and PC Harper went to intercept them to do that. A car drove off. There was a strap attached to the back. I don't know whether that was potentially to drag the quad bike away. He got caught in that and was dragged along for a mile or so, and that was how he lost his life. Should they be released, and should Andy Burnham be stepping in? Can he? What can he do?
Well, the thing I've been struck by with this, and this is a horrific case that it pulls on all the heartstrings. It's a police officer, it's someone young. There's so many reasons why I understand why this is in the public consciousness, but there is more going on than this one case. There are so many people being released. There are people that we don't know of, that we've never heard of, that are worried that their rapist is about to be let out. There are people there thinking, my God, this person killed my son, and they're getting out early. So I don't know that government policy should all be built around one case, as horrific as it was. And this is why Andy Burnham is having such trouble, because he's basically trying to say, well, the public's going to be outraged if we let those two out. And the Downing Street is saying to him, well, you can't just have an exemption for these two. You have to create a policy that encapsulates everyone, and that's where the real problem is. I guess what we need to really decide as a country, because the thing is, they are being let out, as I've done the maths, maybe I'm wrong, about halfway through their sentence.
Yeah.
That is pretty standard. I know that Labour's got their early release scheme, but letting someone out halfway through their sentence for good behaviour is pretty standard. So we have to ask ourselves, well, if we're not comfortable with that as a country, OK, fine, let's keep people in for their full sentences. That then brings us on to the big thing that Labour says is there's no prison places. Well, maybe the real response to this should be to drill into the prison places.
Yeah.
Because from what I understand as a country, we actually can build prisons. What holds it up is the bureaucracy, the paperwork, the years of paperwork to get these things built. Maybe if Andy Burnham spent some time actually doing that, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Yeah, the driver, Henry Long, he's received a 16-year sentence, so he isn't eligible for early release, but Cole and Bowers, the passengers, would be eligible to be freed in January, halfway through that 13-year sentence. Let me find out from my panel in America what they make of this. Political reporter for the Daily Mail, Victoria Churchill, and political analyst Eric Ham are joining us now. Eric, let me come to you when you listen to this story. Should these kids be young men, be let out now, halfway through their sentence? And is it the kind of case that the Prime Minister should be involved in?
Well, it works a little bit different here in the United States. Very rarely would a president get involved in something like this. However, when it is the killing of a law enforcement official, that does take on a whole new tone and tenor. And oftentimes in certain places, that could mean an actual death sentence for the culprit. In this case, I think the sentence should actually I think it should be completed. In normal cases, if it's a state case in the U.S., you typically do see people do anywhere from a third to maybe half of their case because there is the overcrowding that we see in prison populations throughout the country. However, but again, when it comes to law enforcement, that's very, very different oftentimes. And then if it's a federal case, then you're required to actually do 90% of your sentence. And again, like I said, if it were a law enforcement official, in some places that can come with an actual death sentence. But I think in this case, I think half is still not enough for these individuals.
Victoria, to Lewis's point that there are prisoners let out halfway through their sentences every day in this country. Our prisons are overcrowded. What is it about a story like this that has so captured the headlines and had interventions from our brand new Prime Minister?
Well, again, like Eric, speaking to what we see here in the U.S. is I think that we see way too many stories of people who reoffend or actually have more severe crimes after they are let out early. You know, particularly in the COVID era, there's been a focus on a wave of candidates that are running even in this election in 2026 that were maybe state legislators or were involved at the local level during the COVID pandemic when, you know, the fear of overcrowding the prisons was very real and kind of let up a little bit due to concerns for the health of the prisoners themselves. And at least based on research that I've come across, you know, these cases are unfortunately not few and far between where, you know, people supported these more lax policies in the state and local level, and now they're even running for Congress on platforms that are similar to that. And, you know, at the same time, we have people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is on TV this weekend, who is saying, you know, woke 1.0 was wacky, basically trying to distance herself from a lot of these super radical, super far left policies that she has advocated for pretty much her entire career in politics and in the national spotlight.
You mean kind of defunding the police in the case of AOC, who, for people that don't know, she's a very high-profile Democrat in the US. Go on, Eric.
You know, I think there's a fine line between when people are sentenced between punishment and rehabilitation. And I think when we're talking about crimes such as this, I think there needs to be greater emphasis on the punishment. And, you know, even if these people are eligible to be released, should they be released as it relates to the actual crime, but then also the rehabilitation aspect of it. Because, again, we're talking about killers who are being released, and then the question becomes, what is available to them in civil society now that they have spent so much time in prison? And so I think that is something that needs to be weighed when we're looking at whether or not these individuals should be released.
It's a very good point. They'll have a tough job getting a job, let's be honest, to Peter's point about the fact that they may not end up going out and being upstanding members of the community, because who would employ them, Peter?
Good, decent, courageous police officers occupy a unique position in society.
Yeah.
And that is that they run towards danger when the rest of us are told to run away from it and to hide and to take cover and to get on the phone, that kind of stuff. Consequently, it's really important, the relationship between police officers and governments and the criminal justice system. They want to feel that they will be supported by the criminal justice system and by the government of the day and by politicians more widely. If not, then that is severely damaging to that relationship. We've seen pathetic sentences in other cases where police officers have been often seriously injured. We've seen dreadfully lenient sentences handed down. And that relationship is being pushed to breaking point.
It really is. We need to, and we are being pushed to breaking point. We're up against the clock. A Ministry of Justice spokesperson has said the death of PC Harper was a horrific crime. Our thoughts are with his family and friends, and we share the anger from the police community that we are in this position. Thanks to tireless campaigning by Andrew's family, Harper's law means that anyone convicted of killing an emergency worker whilst committing a crime now gets a mandatory life sentence. This government has gone further by introducing a presumption that anyone convicted of murdering a police, prison or probation officer is handed a whole life order. We've been clear that we wanted to go further and block more offenders from getting out sooner into their sentence, but could not do so without risking prisons reaching capacity and collapsing. If that happened, police could not make arrests, courts could not remand offenders, and there would be unchecked criminality on our streets. Right, let me know what you think. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
To house a foreign national offender in El Salvador will be half the cost of housing a foreign national offender in this country.
On board with that, Reform UK has promised a mass deportation of foreign nationals from Britain's prisons, and taking a leaf out of President Trump's book, Home Affairs spokesperson Zia Youssef revealed that offenders could be sent to countries like El Salvador to hang out with people like that. If you're listening on the radio, trust me, it's your worst nightmare. Is it a workable policy or just a good headline grabber? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining me. It's Bev in London tonight. Now, Reform UK has promised a mass deportation of foreign nationals from Britain's prisons. The party's Home Affairs spokesman, Zia Youssef, has revealed that offenders could be sent to countries like Kosovo or El Salvador to serve their sentences.
We will change the law so that those who commit serious crimes, like murder, manslaughter, rape, and serious violence, serve their full sentences. Unbelievably, there are over 10,000 foreign nationals in British jails. We will deport all of them, sending them to serve their sentences in countries like El Salvador or Kosovo if their home countries will not take them back. And we will use that space to ensure that serious criminals stay where they belong, behind bars.
Zia Youssef there, whose ambitions were only dwarfed by his massive flag. Elsewhere today, we've seen this awful case of Afghan asylum seeker who raped a 13-year-old girl. He's now been sentenced to 9.5 years in prison at Nottingham Crown Court. Khan arrived in the UK illegally back in 2015 on the back of a lorry, and he faces automatic deportation to Afghanistan after serving 2/3 of his sentence. Let's speak now to former Downing Street Parliamentary Advisor Robert Midgley. Robert, good to see you. Thanks for joining us this evening. Now, what do you make of these plans of Zia Youssef and the Reform Party? Surely, if it was this easy, other people would have done it before now.
Yeah, Dev, I totally agree with you, but the UK needs a strong deterrence. We don't necessarily need El Salvador's prisons. I think the UK just needs a backbone. First and foremost, I think there should be a zero-tolerance approach to foreign criminals. If you commit a crime in the UK, which you are not a native, you should lose the right to remain in the UK. I think that's fairly simple, and you should be deported back to the country of your origin. And also, I think you should face a lifetime ban to return to the UK altogether. I always like to compare to Singapore. I think a lot of viewers know this. They don't hide the fact that they have death sentences if you commit serious crime. It's extreme, yes, but the crime there does not exist. It has one of the lowest crime rates in the world because that deterrence is so incredibly strong. You can actually walk around Singapore with your phone out without any sort of fear. I remember when David Cameron, back in 2015, he tried to fund a prison in Jamaica, I think for about £25 million, just to deport 300 Jamaican nationals. And there were so many human rights challenges and bad press about it that the whole deal fell apart. So it's going to be very, very difficult to bring El Salvador into that same thing. We saw the Rwanda plan as well, and that fell apart too. And I think the problem is that it sounds like a good idea, but the way the government works is way, way, way too clunky. It's just not nimble enough. You'd have years of negotiation, you'd have years of constructing and contracting people, years of legal challenges. And I just don't think the UK is nimble enough to sort of handle that sort of thing. It will take years to become operational, and we'll just be too slow when people want fast results now.
But when you look at these pictures, Rob, of these prisons in El Salvador, I cannot imagine more of a deterrent than being in a room with those men with full head tattoos. Like, wouldn't that be enough, the idea of going there, that if you are, I don't know, Peter Blexley will have a better idea of your typical little scally that might be doing something in, you know, Manchester on a Saturday night that's going to end up getting him banged up because he's burgled someone's house. I just wonder, would these images not make them stop and think twice, Rob?
Well, you'd hope so, but I think the way the UK works, just like I said, just isn't nimble enough to actually make it happen. You know, I think each prisoner costs around £25,000 to £30,000 a year. So the cheapest solution is to just deport them back to their country of origin. I think that, if they can't be sent back to their country of origin, yes, do send them on to somewhere like El Salvador. But, you know, just sending them back to be their country of origin to start with, it would free up prison spaces, and it would just prevent crime from ever taking place. And I think that the deterrence that I mentioned earlier about banning them for life as well from the UK afterwards, if they're ever released, is also really strong deterrence too that should be brought into this plan.
Yeah. OK, Rob, great to see you. Rob Midgley there. Let me come to you on this, Peter Blexley, because when you see those images of those prisons, would that be a deterrent?
First of all, that contributor, Rob Midgley, needs to pay attention to detail. A former Downing Street advisor. No wonder this country's in the state it is. Right. This was an absolutely wonderful announcement. If only it could be put into practice. And, of course, there's a lot of hurdles to be negotiated before it ever becomes law and practice. It would be absolutely wonderful for those people that come to this once great nation, abuse its hospitality, rape, murder, steal. I don't care if they've stolen a chocolate bar. If they're a foreign national and they can't be sent back to their own country, and of course there's a number of countries where that cannot happen, then yes, get them into an El Salvadorian prison. Absolutely wonderful.
You're actually revelling in the...
Oh, the prospect of it would be such a delight. It would be fabulous. I'd fly the plane if I had the qualifications. Absolutely brilliant. But... and I wrote about it today. I would like to see Reform actually putting up on their press conferences the lawyers that have spoken about this.
Yeah.
The lawyers that would have to go into battle against the former Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, right? Human rights lawyer in his previous incarnation. Baron Hermer, former Attorney General, now in the Lords. They would revel at challenging this kind of decision, this kind of lawmaking. They'd be sharpening their pencils.
Yeah, they would.
And they'd earn a fortune out of it, but they would love it. So I want to see the lawyers from Reform that would be there, that would push this through, and are determined and would make it happen.
And one of the arguments, Lewis, would be these prisoners in the UK, these British, let's talk about let's say they've got family here. It doesn't matter if they are foreign nationals, but say they've got family here. The arguments would be they have a right to be visited by their family in the UK in prison, and they can't do that if they're in El Salvador because they've got to get a plane and they can't have visitors anyway. Is that a good enough argument to not do this?
I don't think so. I think we do have to look at how you fund a family. I mean, if they're going to be in prison, they're not going to be funding them anyway. But I think that there is always that argument of families. It always sounds good until you're ripping a child out of someone's arms, whatever. Look, I don't know how I feel about this, to be honest, because I actually think this is one where you maybe, if we're going to do it, you would let the victims decide. Because there is an argument that some people might say, no, I don't want them disappearing into some foreign jail and being let out whenever. I mean, that El Salvador one's not you're going to be getting out anytime soon, if at all. But there are other prisons that they would go to, so I'm not really sure. I almost think that maybe you take the victim's preference on it in a courtroom, if it were ever to happen, which, let's be honest, it's not. I mean, the previous story, we were just talking about how Andy Burnham can't keep 2 people in prison. The idea that you're going to deport 10,000 people... I mean, this is the thing as well. I was like, Nigel Farage has not learned his lesson, has he? After that whole flack he got from how much he was going to put into the NHS over Brexit on the side of the bus, he's now putting numbers on it again. Like, even if this was a success, you're not going to get 10,000 prison spaces. Like, there will be legal challenges. So I don't know. And on your thing about a deterrent, I mean, Peter will know criminals better than I do, but I just think that people that are committing crime probably aren't thinking about the consequences anyway. They're thinking about what they want to steal or who they want to pull off the street. I don't know. I just don't think that goes through people's minds. Maybe it does.
Whilst you're getting splinters up your rear end because you can't make your mind up sitting on the fence, I did some research into this today, right? We have business deals with El Salvador exports between 20 and 30 million pounds worth of stuff to us each year. So not a fortune, but coffee, some electrical gear, some clothing and all of that. So the flights that go out to El Salvador, they'll have to be military flights. There's no direct commercial flights, and besides, they'd be full of prisoners. Right? So collapsible seats or seats that can be removed, and then the flights back, just to keep the cost down, we can bring coffee and all that kind of stuff, so the flights don't come back empty. They come back full of items that we're trading with El Salvador. Boom, cost down, joy.
Trade deal, I love it. We send them our baddies and they send us the stuff that we need.
Well, we're buying their coffee and their clothes anyway, not in huge numbers, but just fill the airplane so they don't fly back empty.
Just not going to happen. How much did we waste on Rwanda for nothing?
Wouldn't it be wonderful? You get back on your fence, you can't make your mind up.
Right, a Ministry of Justice spokesperson has said after just 500 additional prison places were added in the 14 years to July 2024, this government is pulling every lever to protect the public and cut crime, building prison places at the fastest rate since the Victorian era, with 14,000 being built by 2031, launching the biggest ever expansion of tagging to toughen community punishment and giving victims a say in the strict licence conditions of offenders. Protecting the public will always be our top priority. That is why this government is taking decisive action to fix the prison crisis it inherited, whilst investing record sums to support victims. Right, still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
Fans from everywhere in the world would gain immeasurably from this game-changing potential. It will transform football in their countries.
Well, it won't transform football anymore. Those are the proposals that have kicked off all of this controversy. Multiple football associations are now pushing for Gianni Infantino to resign, writing a new blistering open letter calling for leadership that serves football, not seeks to command it. Can the battling FIFA president cling on? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Don't tell Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates, but I've just found their biscuits and I've just stolen one. I'm going to be in trouble for that, aren't I? Now, UEFA, the Asian Football Confederation, and CONCACAF are planning to push for Gianni Infantino to resign after writing a letter calling for leadership that serves football, not seeks to command it. It's a dramatic escalation of the battle that erupted after the FIFA president's failed Football Forward enterprise scheme.
It is an opportunity, but not an obligation. And as I said, it kicks off the consultation process. If and only if it is approved by the majority of our 211 member associations and the FIFA Council, it would be a FIFA-owned and controlled subsidiary.
So those three organisations have accused Infantino of trust broken through deception, condemning his decision to launch the proposal without consulting them. So could this coordinated campaign against the embattled FIFA president finally force Infantino to leave the field? With me now is senior global reporter for the Daily Mail, Nick Pisa. Nick, who'd have thought in the aftermath of that brilliant World Cup in America, this controversy would have been rumbling on? Infantino is swinging on a giant hook here, isn't he? I can't imagine he's going to last for long, Nick.
No, that's right. Where are we? It's a little over a month since we had that World Cup final, which was actually quite disappointing in the end, wasn't it, as a footballing spectacle? But here we are, almost a month on, and Infantino is still there, still hanging on by his fingertips, because, as you said in your introduction there, that letter signed by CONCACAF, by UEFA and by the Asian Football Federation, these are senior figures in football, and the presidents of those confederations that have signed that are also FIFA vice presidents. So, they are unifying and putting on a show of strength to say to Infantino, look, enough is enough, mate. You've got to sling your hook, as you say, and you've got to move on, because what you did with this idea of selling off football just left a completely bad taste in everyone's mouth, and the way that it was done secretly and, to quote UEFA, opaquely in a sort of grubby backroom deal just didn't go down at all well with these footballing confederations, and they really do want to see him move on. I mean, I don't know if we've got a bit of time to just take a look, deconstruct that statement. As you said, their leadership in football is not a possession. It is not about holding or demanding power to be held. It is a duty of service to the football family that entrusts it. So they're basically saying, look, Gianni Infantino, you are not up to the job. You are not reputable enough. You are not honest enough. You're not trustworthy enough to carry on in that role. And it's now time for you to do the honourable thing and step aside.
So do you read from that, Nick? Their objection is primarily that he didn't include them in the decision-making process, or is it that he wants to fill it up football and sell it privately, regardless of whether it included them in the conversation? Where do you see the kind of pressure coming from?
I think it's probably a bit of both of those elements that you've mentioned there, yeah, because it was the fact that this would have made him an immensely even richer man than he is already now. And also the way that it was done, it wasn't announced at all. It wasn't discussed with the other officials at FIFA. It was just something that he suddenly, was it about 10, 12 days after the World Cup final, suddenly announced this was going to happen. And then he was also pushing for it to be approved within weeks. He wanted it to go through by the middle of September, in a month or so's time. And there was no discussion at all between anyone with any parties within FIFA. So I think that's what the key thing is, that the way that it was he sort of come out with this idea to try and to forward himself, basically. Because that's, at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. He's out to look after himself, and he's desperately scrabbling around to try and get support from other confederations, because he knows that come November, when the applications go in for a new president at the Congress in Morocco in March of next year, he could actually be fighting to save his job.
Thank you, Nick. Great to see you. Nick Pisa there from the Daily Mail. I'm just looking at what Gianni Infantino is worth, Peter Blexley. Very difficult figure to ascertain any definitive optics on. However, it looks like he's worth about 15 million quid. His salary at FIFA is a base salary of 2.6 million, bonus of 2.2. He's got plenty of money, hasn't he?
The love of money is the root of all evil.
Some women would say the love of football is the root of all evil, Peter Blexley. Tell us why this matters so much, what he's tried to do.
Because the head of the global game should not be trying to siphon off part of what really is an untangible thing. It's the game.
Yeah.
It can't be cut and sliced and sold off to the highest bidder. I think he spent too much time in America. I think he had his head turned by seeing how much money it was generating.
Totally agree.
Yeah, and I think that's why that ridiculous announcement came out. So, yeah, his days are numbered of that, I've absolutely no doubt.
And how easy is it to get the job? How long has he been in that role?
He's now, I think, in his second or third term, so he's been elected into that position
And is the
already.
term over the sort of 4 years of a World Cup cycle? Is the term a year?
I am not an authority on that, although when he does go, I shall be applying, so I'll be far more better read up on it.
Maybe he'll be up against Lewis Oakley for that position. Lewis, I don't know how much of a football fan you are.
I pretend to appease my 17-year-old that I know what he's talking about. I'm usually just looking at which one's hot.
Yeah, but therefore, do you get it? You're probably a bit like me, I'm a little bit apathetic about this, but I understand the religious significance that football holds in the spiritual world of some people.
No, well, look, At the base level, if you have lost the trust of people, you can't lead them. So, it doesn't matter how much I know about football. I understand leadership, and he's lost the trust.
Yeah.
I also think there's a part of me that likes seeing someone that is rich already, who tried to get richer, actually have their co-uppers, because it doesn't happen often, and I quite like that. The one thing that does bother me, I guess, with this is, could you imagine if we had this kind of energy and passion for other things that really matter? If we had this outrage over how much government contracts were given in COVID to their mates, how much the NHS is charged on the regular by private companies, if we got that outrage about people that are trying to game the system and make themselves rich, my God, we could fix everything.
Are you trying to suggest that football doesn't matter?
Well, it's a good point, though, because he's pointing to the fact that there is corruption at levels of all sorts of areas, and you had me on COVID, by the way. There is corruption, and what is it about the sanctity of football that makes people like you so angry? I was going to say football being used as a football for this issue.
Well, I'm talking about at club level now, where us supporters are tribal beings. It's kind of prehistoric. I can imagine, in caves when people were very tribal. We're very tribal about our football teams. And, of course, we love the sport. It is the greatest spectator sport of all. I think that is beyond dispute. Although, when you said how wonderful the World Cup was, I watched a lot of pretty tedious matches, to be honest with you. But anyway.
It was carried out very well over there. It was a success as an event. I think that's what I was kind of getting at. Don't look to me for political analysis. You're not going to get much sense, I'm afraid, Peter. Let me ask my American guest while we're talking about that. It was a successful event, Victoria, but Infantino, he's clearly upset everybody that has any power to kick him out. If you had to set your watch by his demise, how long has he got?
Well, that's an interesting question, Bev. I definitely do agree with the first part of it, that this does seem to have been successful here in the U.S. I think there was a lot of things that people, even including myself, were a little bit apprehensive about, particularly, namely, the security concerns. I know we talked a few months ago about how, there was less TSA agents to go around, but that didn't really seem to cause an issue. At the final, of course, there was not only President Trump attending, but also Mark Carney, as well as Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico. So, the fact that FIFA, together with U.S. government and, DHS and other agencies were able to secure that facility, as well as all of the other securities, they said, or all the other facilities, they said they had pretty much a Super Bowl in multiple cities going on all at the same time over multiple days. That is definitely a feat to be able to execute that and to oversee all of that. And, of course, the other half of it is mainly what we saw on social media, where there were people that were apprehensive and cautious about coming to the U.S. that seemed pleasantly surprised, not only by the matches themselves, but also just by their experience in America overall. So, I think overall it was a great success and a great way to show the U.S. on the world stage, even for people that were a little bit hesitant or apprehensive about coming here. And so, obviously all nations get kind of equal votes in FIFA, but the Americans definitely, I think, will be supporting Infantino. And I'm sure other nations will be as well.
OK. Need to move on. Sorry, Eric, we'll come to you next, because there is still another couple of hours to go. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live. We're going to look at some of the papers. The Express is going with Kemi. Rule out new taxes to prevent more hardship. Should the Prime Minister be raising taxes or getting a handle on spending? We'll discuss that in just a minute, only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Let's have a look at the front page of the Express newspaper. They're saying that Kemi Badenoch is telling Andy Burnham rule out new taxes to prevent more hardship. Is she right, Lewis Oakley?
100%. It's not funny. It's not even debatable anymore. People cannot be taxed anymore. The cost of living in this country is just too high. As a dad working at the late shift and they go to a full-time job tomorrow, trying to raise 3 kids, it's like there is no money. You cannot tax us anymore. What possibly for? And if we were getting really great services out of it, that would be one thing. But we're not. So I think she's totally right to want this guarantee from him.
She's holding him to account, though, Peter, isn't she, and trying to get him to agree to this publicly. It's quite clever.
But he's a socialist. They're a socialist government. It's the Labour Party. And let's remember what Pat McFadden said not so many weeks ago, that we spend all of cabinet meetings finding out who we can tax so we can give it away in welfare. There'll be more taxes if they think they can get away with it. Of course, there were the manifesto pledges, but they soon went out the window when national insurance got hiked and the such like. It will be the same old story with the Labour government. It will be tax somehow or borrow somehow and spend.
Yeah.
That's what it will be.
If they do put up taxes, Lewis, where would be a fairer place to put them?
Ooh.
They're coming after assets, aren't they? Anyone with a garden?
And I think there's a point to that. I mean, the younger generation now, they cannot get started with their lives. They cannot get onto the housing market. They can't afford to have children. They can barely afford to leave their mom's basement. If you're going to tax someone, it has to be someone with assets already.
They're also quite spendy.
Oh, what? Avocados and Netflix? Come on.
Yes. They don't think twice about a Deliveroo or an Uber when we'd have got a bus or made a sandwich.
Yeah, but that's because if they thought, oh, you know what, if I don't spend that money, I can actually save for a house, then they would probably not do that. What they're looking at is, oh, my God, a house now costs like 13, 14 times the average salary. Doesn't matter if I forgo all of this stuff. I'm never going to be able to achieve that. So I may as well make today a little bit easier. Let's order that Deliveroo.
That's that defeatist mentality mentality, isn't it?
It's not
No
defeatist
one's gonna buy
mentality,
them
it's
a
the
house. They
reality
need to
for young
budget.
people.
Yeah, but they need to budget.
But come on, you've got young kids too. I've got a 17-year-old. I am genuinely a bit lost at what to even advise him now. I don't think go to university.
I'm with you on
but then when I look at, the AI threat that's coming, I'm just like, I don't really know what to tell you to do, because I don't know what careers are going to be there in 5 years' time. Just forget about it. So I don't know. We really do need to focus on that. And if they come for the tax of the young, I don't know. I feel like it probably has to be assets, but that is really hard to do because, as I've said before, what are you going to do? Walk into a millionaire's house and start pricing up their art and their shoe collection? It's just a really tricky thing to do.
It is, and then you run the risk of taking away aspiration and competition and ambition, and then all our millionaires leave anyway. So just spend less wherever you can, government. That would be a good start. Right, more to come in the next hour, including this.
It's addictive. It's more addictive than cigarettes, I believe, especially for younger folk. You've got the colours on them. It's like multicolours and all that. It's attracting young kids in a way,
The Prime Minister has pledged to give local councils more power to block new vape shops and bookmakers. Is this the bold action we need to regenerate Britain's broken high streets? Let's discuss that next after your weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of dry, sunny weather to be had through today, and it is going to be a bit hotter than yesterday, but temperatures rising further through this week. Now, there is some rain around across the north of Scotland. Here it will be cloudier and a few outbreaks of rain, but nothing particularly heavy. Elsewhere, for much of Northern Ireland, the rest of Scotland and across England and Wales, it is going to be dry. Not great news for those in desperate need of some rain with the ongoing drought, but yes, plenty of dry weather to come this week. And it is going to be a bit warmer than yesterday. Temperatures in the south peaking in the high 20s or low 30s, even further north where we get to low to mid 20s. It's going to feel pretty warm with generally light winds and some bright sunny weather around. Through this evening, a bit of rain affecting the Western Isles, perhaps Shetland as well. Elsewhere across Scotland, yes, there'll be some cloud across central, eastern, southern parts, but it should be largely fine. Northern Ireland staying largely fine as well, just the odd spot of rain towards the far west. And then for England and Wales, it's a dry picture through this evening, and we're ending the day in a similar note to how we'll have spent most of it, with lots of late sunshine. Overnight, England and Wales staying mostly clear and it will be dry. Scotland and Northern Ireland, however, it's cloudier. There'll be a few outbreaks of rain coming in, particularly Western Northern Ireland and feeding into western parts of Scotland, and some of them could be a little bit on the heavy side. It is going to be a relatively warm night, temperatures holding up for many in the mid to high teens, particularly in your more built-up areas. Temperatures are rising further then as we go into Wednesday, with more hot air being dragged in from the south. So with that then, lots of sunshine for England and Wales. Scotland, Northern Ireland and the far north of England, a bit cloudier at times and outbreaks of rain. Could be heavy, could be a bit thundery at times tomorrow, but they will be quite hit and miss. With all that sunshine and that hotter air coming into southern areas, well, temperatures are going to be even higher than today, peaking around 33.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very good evening, good morning, live from London. This is Bev on GB News with the stories shaping Great Britain and the United States of America tonight.
I feel for the family it's an appalling crime that was committed. The main perpetrator will not be subject to any early release.
Breaking news, an exclusive statement from one of the first responders to the death of PC Andrew Harper has condemned the possibility that his killers could be eligible for early release, saying the government is spitting in the faces of police officers. As Andy Burnham begins his listening tour of the country, why won't he meet with PC Harper's mother? Also,
to house a foreign national offender in El Salvador will be half the cost of housing a foreign national offender in this country.
Reform UK has promised a mass deportation of foreign nationals from Britain's prisons. Taking a leaf out of President Trump's book, the party's Home Affairs spokesman Zia Youssef revealed that offenders could be sent to countries like El Salvador to hang out with that lot. But is this a workable policy or just a good headline grabber? Also tonight.
In May and June, we sadly saw a real increase in the number of people who died as a result of heatwave conditions. The NHS now needs to prepare for summer pressures as well as for winter pressures because the heat has real health consequences.
Officials have declared that more than 2/3 of England is now in drought after the nation recorded its driest July on record. Do we need to take bold action to tackle climate change, whatever that looks like, or do we just need to enjoy this lovely weather and adapt to the heat? Also.
Yes, sir. So I wouldn't mind stepping out of the car and doing a breath test.
Look, you had 2 pints, you're over the limit. That's a 12-month ban and a criminal record.
Maybe we need to bring back adverts like that because new research has found that August is the worst month of the year for drink driving accidents. Well, you might have traditionally thought it would have been Christmas time. So what is creating these opportunities for people to have a drink and get behind the wheel of a car? Also tonight.
It's addictive. It's more addictive than cigarettes, I believe, especially for younger folk. You've got the colours on them. It's like multicolours and all that. It's attracting young kids in a way, you know.
Well, he might be a big fan of vapes, but the Prime Minister has pledged to give local councils more power to block new vape shops and bookmakers. Is this the action needed to regenerate Britain's broken high streets? And what would you like to replace them with? Let me know. gbnews.com/your say. I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. I don't get to stand up when I do the show in America. It's quite nice to stretch my legs. It's a long time when they're behind this desk. Right, hello, good evening. In London this evening, my panel, former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blexley, broadcaster and podcaster Lewis Oakley, and in Washington, political reporter for the Daily Mail, Victoria Churchill, and US political analyst Eric Ham. Thank you, gang, for joining us this evening, and thank you at home for tuning in. Get in touch, won't you? GBNews.com/your say. Let me know your thoughts this evening. So, it was another lovely day here in the UK. I can't lie, I blooming love this weather, but drought officials have declared that more than 2/3 of England is now officially in a drought state after the nation recorded its driest July on record. 45 million people across England are now living under these conditions. We're looking at them here. There's no lawn whatsoever, but there are some lovely picnics. More than 27 million people are facing restrictions on water usage. Now, following an unusually hot and dry summer, the chair of the National Drought Group warned that conditions will worsen until the country sees significant and sustained rainfall. But chances of that don't look good. The heatwave conditions are set to return later this week. So is this a wake-up call for us to tackle climate change, or do we simply need to learn to adapt to the increasing heat? With me now is leader of the Climate Party, Ed Gemmell. Ed, what a pleasure. It's been a while since I've spoken to you. Thank you so much for joining me this evening on The Late Show Live. Now, Ed, I know that you, like me, probably quite enjoy a sunny day. In fact, let me ask you that as a leader of the Climate Party. When you do wake up at the moment and you have your morning cup of tea and coffee and you put back the curtains and it's another sunny day, what's your response to that, Ed? Because I love it. I can't lie, I love it.
What is my response to days as they go up to the temperatures we're getting later this week, as opposed to 20 to 25 degrees. We're going to go up to 37 or whatever on Thursday. What's my response? I wake up, I hang reflective sheets and pillowcases on the outside of my windows to make sure the heat doesn't reach the windows and get into the house. Try and keep my house cool. I drink a pint of water, and then I put on a lot of sun cream. So that's what I do at the start of the day. And then I stay in the shade for almost all of the day after that, trying to make sure that I'm able to do some work, because if I'm out in the heat, I can't.
Oh, Ed, that sounds a little bit sad. I can't lie. I know you're a hard-working man, and I agree with a lot of what you say about the fact that what we have to do is invest in future technologies, and that as a country we're getting left behind. You're this unusual thing of you're a climate capitalist, if you forgive me if I've got that wrong, but I think that's how you described yourself, and I love that. But shouldn't we somehow, Ed, be going, right, this is the situation we are in. We just have to change our houses in some way. We have to change the way that we travel, perhaps, but I'm not talking about everyone going around on bicycles. Don't we just have to do more, Ed, to make sure that if these conditions last, we're happy with them?
I mean, we definitely have to do more in every single way, but that's immediate adaptation for people within their own lives and that sort of thing to avoid the problems of these heat waves. And I mean, just in my local town here in High Wycombe, we're trying to bring in community cool zones, making sure initially that everybody is within a kilometre, if possible, of an air-conditioned, cooled area they can go to get out of the sun. But it's a lot more than that. I mean, we had Chris Hon, so I think as he reported, as the 22nd richest man in the world. He was out today and he said, decarbonise or die. OK, he was putting it right there on the line and saying, we have got to get this job done and we can't wait any longer. I mean, I was in an interview probably at the weekend, actually, where the person interviewing me said that we're going to expect more of these hot and dry weather in the future. This is what the new normal is going to be like. No, we aren't. We're going to expect it hotter and drier. This is the coolest summer you'll ever experience in Britain now. On an average, it's going up. And next year, it's going to be super brutal as a super El Nino kicks in. And that's going to heat it even more. We are in real trouble. But as you referred to before, there's big opportunity. I mean, and Chris Hon referred to this as well as reported in the article. Look, we have a massive opportunity to get on and commercialise this because everybody is going to need to do everything, A, to adapt to these temperatures, but B, to beat them. And we've got to start having green steel, green cement, cross-laminated timber buildings. We've got to put in tidal power. We've got to do everything we can. And that's good for the economy. So it increases jobs, it brings money into the economy, and Britain, we could be a leader if we get on with it.
I certainly find it astonishing that if we all accept, for whatever reason, the planet is warming, we can kind of probably agree on that. I find it astonishing that all of our new houses are not mandated to be brilliantly insulated. You know, I don't mind confessing, Ed, I'm quite a supporter of a fandelier. I did a renovation recently, and all of my lights in my house have got a fan on them in the bedroom. So you have like the fandelier. They're not necessarily the most stylish things in the world. I quite like mine. And that means that I don't need air conditioning, but I can run a little fan on the ceiling like you get on holiday in Spain or whatever. It makes a massive difference to the temperature of the house. These should be routinely fitted, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we're building boil boxes still. Boxes that people are literally going to be boiled to death in the summer. They are effectively clay ovens, and we should have stopped building them 10 years ago. Exeter City Council now, it is now building all of its buildings ready for the weather of 2080. And that's not just the heat waves that we're seeing as well. We are going to see eventually, with potential Gulf Stream and Amok collapse, wildly colder winters. I mean, in the National Emergency Briefing in Westminster only 6 months ago, Professor Tim Lenton got up and he said, what's going to happen is we are going to, as the Gulf Stream and Amok collapses, we're going to go to -20 in London and 3 months under zero, -30 in Scotland, 5.5 months under zero, and the summers will keep getting hotter and hotter, like we've seen, and a lot more. And he just went, Britain will be uninhabitable.
When? By when?
Of course. That's the million-dollar question, of course, isn't it? And everybody wants to know when. When is, you know, in the next 10, 100, 200 years. But it doesn't happen on one point. It will simply get hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter in the summer, bit by bit by bit by bit. It won't be a pleasant Mediterranean lifestyle in this country for very long. It'll soon be the arid plains of you know, Egypt.
And you think that's all because of carbon, Ed?
To say it's all because of carbon is too strong, but it's wildly to do with carbon. I mean, and for all the arguments that people give about carbon giving life and greening and everything else and that, it's about the actual increase. We have increased the carbon emission, the carbon in the atmosphere by about 50%. And as we have increased that, we have tracked the temperature increases happening at exactly the same time. The science is really clear. In fact, the only thing we've done is we've been too modest in our expectations of temperature increases. And the scientific papers that have come out over the last 18 months from Professor Hansen and various others have said we underestimated it. It is now heating wildly more than it was 50 years ago.
All right. Brilliant to see you, Ed. Just briefly before you go, what's a community cooling hub in a nutshell?
So the whole idea is to try and get places which are A, shaded, and B, potentially have proper cooling and, if not, great ventilation, and making sure that they're open all the time and people can go in and get free tap water and sit in a cool space. One of the issues, though, when we brought it in, actually, is that people did contact me and say, problem is I'm vulnerable and I'm going to go out and it's going to take me that time to get them there. So the aim is get them within 1 kilometre of people's homes, then 500 metres, then 250 metres, and make it so that by the time you get to the middle of next year or the year after, everybody can walk within a few minutes to a cool zone.
Wow. All right, Ed, thank you. Good to see you. Ed Gemmell, the leader of the Climate Party. Let me come to my panel on this. Community cooling hub there, Lewis. I'm a little bit unsure as to what that is. I wasn't sure if people just sat around in their underwear and kind of fanned each other or something. I wasn't sure. He is from
Let's hope not. I feel like that wouldn't be good for the community. I mean, look, let's be serious. Like, you know, this is a risk to the elderly, to the vulnerable. Of course, we need to be looking at provisions and putting things in place for them as the temperature gets so hot. I do think the whole net zero and this whole worry around carbon has got a PR problem, to be honest. I think people that talk about it often come off as arrogant. I think that there's also lots of conflicting data. You had that heat wave, was it 1976 or whatever it was?
Yeah.
Where people went without rain for absolutely months. You've also got, I read a Telegraph article the other day that was telling me, actually, the reason it's so hot is because we've removed too much pollution from the atmosphere. And it's like, well, you just don't know whether you're coming or going then, do you? And I think the big thing that a lot of British people will come back to is we are a small island. It really doesn't matter what we do if you've got China and America and Russia putting out all this pollution. That's not to say we can't set an example, but I think that when that is the reality, people are not willing to absolutely go back to living in caves for this. And I think that the government need to recognise that. I actually think Rishi Sunak was quite good on this towards the end, where he said, look, you've got to bring people with you. Yes, we need to be more sustainable. Yes, we need to adapt. But if you go too far too fast, you will get a reaction from people where they're like, no, we don't want that. I don't want to be poorer to save the planet when China's pumping out how many coal stations. So we have to have a reasonable conversation about this. It is getting hotter. We are going to need to adapt, and I think that's the first step.
I think the bit that I find baffling about the drought aspect of this, Peter, is we are surrounded by water, to state the obvious. I don't understand why we don't have massive desalination plants somehow I probably should have asked Ed Gemmell that. He's probably more of an expert on that than you are. But
how dare you?
I know you have many areas of expertise. I'm not sure massive desalination plants is up there. But I just think we've not invested in our water infrastructure. We haven't had a new reservoir for over 30-odd years. And I know that we're being told we shouldn't use our hose pipes. And I'm not advocating for this, just so I don't want to get in trouble. But there is a little bit of my contrarian nature that wants everyone to water their gardens until we've got no water left. And then the water companies are forced to bring around plastic bottles and truly face up to what they've done.
I don't want chronic water shortages because it might affect beer production.
We've all got our priorities.
Yeah, I left school in 1976. So I got out of school as early as I could, and I didn't start working until the back end of September. So I thoroughly enjoyed that scorcher of a summer. I was out on it all summer.
Brilliant.
It was truly wonderful. Playing cricket, fishing, happy days. And this is the closest to it. In fact, I think that this one's a bit hotter than 1976 was. So I'm going to reserve judgment until perhaps we see next summer and so on before we get quite as harem and scarem as Mr. Gemmell was, because he's putting the fear of the Almighty into all of us, isn't he? We're all going to die. Let's wait and see. But as regards to your desalination plants, it would be a whole lot easier if we'd built more reservoirs, if the water companies had done that, instead of shelling out billions upon billions to their shareholders.
Yeah.
That's been a huge problem for decades now. If they fixed the system effectively when there were leaks, I've seen so many images on social media, people going, this is my street. It's been pouring down the drain for the last 3 days.
Absolutely. 2.6 billion a day they lose in usable treated water.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
There you go. So if we had a truly effective water system run by people who were honest and knew what they were doing, then I think the situation would be a lot better, and there might be a bit of irrigation even going on.
Lee's got in touch at home and says desalination plants use lots of energy and our energy is too expensive. And Bernadette says, I was in Canada in nearly -40. Life continued. People went to work, shops opened, trains ran, nothing stopped. People will adapt to their surroundings. It's that simple. Hot summers, build more reservoirs. Simple. Let me go to my American guests. It probably does seem quite simple to Victoria Churchill and Eric Ham, because you live in hot country and you don't seem to be beset by these huge water shortages, are you? Do you ever get told that you can't water your garden, Eric, or fill your paddling pool or your swimming pool?
Well, not here in Washington, D.C., but in many parts of the country, absolutely. In fact, like my mother, she lives in Las Vegas, and when I'm out there in the summer, they actually cannot use water on certain days. They cannot run their washing machines, wash their cars. Right now in the United States, nearly 41% of the entire nation is actually being impacted by drought right now. Nearly 2 billion people in the world are being affected by it. Just recently, here in the United States, there were wildfires taking place in Canada, and the smog created such hostile air pollution that there were warnings about the air here in Washington, D.C. President Donald Trump was even threatening tariffs on Canada as a result of the impact of the air. So it's causing tremendous damage, not only for people individually, but also rancor among countries. So it's a foreign policy issue. issue. And so this is becoming increasingly problematic. And even here in Washington, D.C., when temperatures do get really high, the city will open what they call cooling centers for vulnerable communities and people who don't have access to air conditioning to go and to cool off. And that's something that we see take place. I remember being a graduate student at the University of Chicago in the summertime, because Chicago is a place that gets brutally cold. But in the summertime, you would have people, particularly the elderly, who would actually die when there were like abnormally hot days. So this is something that has always been an issue for places throughout the country. But as you say, here in the United States, there's always been efforts to try to address many of those most vulnerable when you do have abnormally high temperatures or drought like what we're seeing take place right now.
It's such a damning indictment, Victoria, on humanity. The one thing, one of two things, three, air, water, food. One of the three important things that we can't live without, we are just not able, it seems, to manage. I wonder if there is any country around the world that is getting warmer and is actually acing it when it comes to preserving its water and providing water to people. What do you think about, what do you make of that when I consider that, how we're just not managing to keep control of it?
Well, Eric brought up particularly the case of California, and there were some reports during those devastating wildfires a few hours back that even the water that was being built up in reservoirs in California wasn't being distributed properly, and that didn't really seem like a super foreign concept to me, because I actually remember back when I was in high school, I lived in California, and as I've mentioned several times on the show, I was a rower both in college and in high school, and we actually used to row on a reservoir. And so to practice our, our race lengths, which is a standard for a sprint race, is 2,000 meters. Sometimes because the water in the reservoir had gone down, we would actually have to turn around 3/4 of the way through our practice lap because we had run out of, runway distance to actually practice, because the water had gone down, to a point that was more concentrated, and so we couldn't do the full 2,000 meter sprint practice. And that just to me is a very visual and physical testament to how bad California has been at managing water for almost 15 years ago when I was in high school. And so that's on the U.S. side, but also on the U.K. side, I actually heard a story from my mother-in-law this week during this shortage that you all are facing over there, and she actually told me, she can't water her plants in the garden and things like that, but of course there's these exceptions for essential businesses, one of them being a car wash. So she was actually sharing how, down the street from them, they have a car wash, and in between every single car that was going down and getting washed, the people managing it were just pouring water, down the drain pretty much. They weren't turning off the hose in between the cars. So
really?
They put up all these policies trying to stop people from doing things, but there are still idiots that still get in the way, and regardless of what the regulations are, they'll still find a way to make it worse for everyone else.
Okay. Right, thank you guys. Let me know what you think at home. Janet says, has Ed Gemmell not heard of trees? If you want to reduce carbon, stop chopping down the forest, stop plastering the countryside in solar panels, and stop concreting over our gardens, just as a start. I couldn't agree more with that common sense, Janet. Right, new research has found that August in the UK is the worst month of the year for drink driving accidents. So this is due to the number of summer events that create more opportunities to get behind the wheel after consuming alcohol. RAC have found that 721 people, on average, were killed or injured in drink driving crashes during the month of August between 2014 and 2024. So 721 people in August over 10 years. Now, December, which we might think is most commonly associated with drink driving, had an average of 663 deaths or injuries over the same 11-year period. RAC's head of policy, Simon Williams, has said that we need stronger enforcement of drink driving and suggested measures for tackling the problem of repeat offending, including court-order alcohol locks, which prevent a vehicle from being driven without a breath test. Let's talk now to former police officer and co-founder of PTSD 999, Gary Hayes. Gary, good to see you again. Thank you so much for joining us. I find this really fascinating because I thought we'd done quite a good job from a public health point of view and a public awareness point of view to keep the numbers of drink driving going in a downward direction. So what happens in August?
Well, I think we're just, as you've just been speaking, long hot summer periods, it encourages people to do the wrong thing, really. Let's drive out to a nice country pub, have a bit of lunch, have a bit of dinner, and that often follows with consumption of alcohol. And then you've got options, leave the vehicle at the pub or drive home. And sadly, a lot of people will take the second option and use their vehicle to get home. Just adopt a common sense approach here. I think that personally, having dealt with a number of RTCs and sadly some fatal, that this campaign should really be running all year long, not just Christmas period. And as they're suggesting with this report, that August is clearly a month where people, dare we say, get out and enjoy themselves because of the longer days and the sunnier climates.
How traumatic is it for police officers when you arrive at the scene of a road traffic accident and perhaps then realise that the driver of one of the vehicles is heavily intoxicated?
Yeah, it's extremely distressing. And the knock-on effect from the death of just say one person from a drunk driver, the ripple effect is over 150 people will be affected by the death of that individual. And sadly, a lot of the times the drunk driver will be sat on the roadside in the back of a police vehicle whilst the unfortunate member of the public who was just going about their business are sadly now deceased.
Yeah.
Trauma is trauma. It's very specific to the individuals that turn up to these events, whether it be police, fire, ambulance, even the undertakers. It's a very distressing time. And, especially, unfortunately, when young people or young children are fatally injured as a result of that person's stupidity. It lasts with you for forever and a day.
And Gary, this idea that you may be forced to use an alco lock, this has been mooted particularly in relation to repeat drink drivers. I mean, I find it amazing that there are such a thing as repeat drink drivers. But I presume we're just talking about addicts. We're talking about alcoholics here, aren't we? That can't control their drinking and therefore can't control when they get behind the wheel of a car. Tell us what an alco lock is and what that would do.
Well, an alco lock, I believe, is something that's built within your vehicle. And before you can start your vehicle, you would need to take almost a roadside breath test. Now, if you exceed the legal limit of 35 milligrams, then clearly the car won't start. Whilst I think it's a good idea, but how to police it, how to enforce it, and in fact, how long would it take someone to turn that around on its head and find a way around that so as you can unlock the alco lock and carry on with your drunken drive home? I think there's a lot of risk there. I mean, if you've got a repeat offender, longer prison sentence, and clearly crush any vehicle that is associated with them or the vehicles, that they've got used to or use of, crush them. Take the opportunity away from them. They'll soon get tired of paying out thousands of pounds for new vehicles.
I think also, Gary, looking at why this might be worse in August, it is the fact that I suppose this weather has got something to do with it. People, go out and have a pub lunch somewhere or have a picnic somewhere, take a bottle of wine, and they think, oh, I'll be all right. Do you think we need to have more education about what is an acceptable limit? Because I think most people probably don't have a clue about their own personal limit that would keep them under.
Yeah, I mean, there's always this talk or suggestion, isn't there, that, bigger people consume more alcohol or smaller people take on less because of the effects. It's wrong. Everyone's metabolism is different, and the biggest person in the world could just have a pint, 2 pints and be over the limit, legal limit to drive. I think we need to run away from that idea. Educate people, educate our young drivers. Young drivers are going out, drink driving, drug driving, and all the other stuff that they're doing currently with the gas and stuff like that. We need to be strong. We're far too weak in some areas in this country in relation to prosecution. You know, we spoke the other week about the prisons being sort of over full capacity. Well, deal with it. Let's be strong. We've got to be strong in this country. You know, one life lost to a drink drive is just one too many. And when you're talking about young children or young people, I mean, you're lost for words.
Yeah.
As you mentioned just a minute ago, the impact that it has on the mental health of our emergency service workers is phenomenal. And we need to think about that as well.
And that's what you do at PTSD 999, is help those people. Gary, thank you so much. Gary Hayes there. Let me ask my panel all about this. Peter, I must come to you on this. I'm sure you've got experience of seeing drink driving and crashes and the impact on families. How do we fix it?
I'm uncharacteristically and unashamedly puritanical on this. First of all, we set the alcohol limit at 0.
Do you think?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. Absolutely. I'd do that tomorrow if I ruled the country. Yes, without a shadow of a doubt. Punitive punishments. I think the alcohol locks are brilliant. I would be urging car manufacturers to fit them to all vehicles. So every vehicle had it. Every time you get in a car, quick blow, boom, can you drive it? Yes, off you go. Yeah, because it destroys lives. It takes the lives of entirely innocent people. Far too many. The drug driving situation in this country is utterly shameful. I am sick to death in the summer with my windows down, sitting in queues of traffic with wafts of weed coming from other vehicles that have only got one person in them. Yeah, it's just appalling. We need to be, I echo a lot of what Gary says, we need to be very, very firm with this because innocent people die.
It's funny, though, because I agree with so much of you, Peter. I know that sometimes you and I have this point of difference when it comes to, like, the civil liberties, and particularly in relation to the tech issue. You probably agree with me a little bit on this, Lewis, I think, knowing your position on some of these things, that if your car decides if you can or can't drive...
Yeah, I don't like it.
I don't like it either. I think the human being should always have more power than the machinery.
Yeah, it gives me COVID vibes. It's like, oh, well, it's just for the people that can't control their alcohol. Well, why have they got a driving licence in the first place? And then there's always scope creep. So, oh, well, you know what, it'd be safer to just give everyone this. And then all of a sudden your car is telling you, no, you can't do something. At some point, we have to trust human beings to manage their own lives and to take their own risks and to know what the law is. And if they can't do that, take away the licence. I agree with what he said, crush the car. Like, I don't mind. If you can't do it, then the state does it. But why should we be bringing in tech to what will eventually become everyone? And you know what will happen as well? It'll be everyone has to pay for it. It's like, you've got to all pay $5,000 now to have this installed in your car. I don't like it at all. I mean, driving, like, one is too many, I get that, but I had my AI pull the figures. So 1994, there was 540 deaths from drink driving. 2024, it has gone down to 220 deaths. That's a 59% fall. We're going in the right direction. What I think is probably better education. I actually do understand that there is there's more drink driving going on now than Christmas. If you think about Christmas, you know where you're going to be. It's all sort of parties and you think about how you're going to get back.
Yeah.
Summer, I mean, I regularly go periods without drinking, and I was saying something the other day. I can do that in spring and do it in winter and do it in autumn. I cannot do it in summer.
So you're more concerned about a mild inconvenience to you than you are about 220 deaths?
No, it's not a mild inconvenience. It's about civil liberties. It's about me being able to go about my life.
Inconvenience.
No. This is how you start with COVID vaccine passports and all this kind of stuff. We're keeping people safe. We're keeping people safe. No, I'm sorry. We've been able to reduce this by 59% without your car telling you no. I think that there is enough going on here. I think it's more about education. It's more about being. Maybe it is. If you're caught drink driving once, fine, get rid of the car. I don't mind, but I don't see why everyone that obeys the rules will have to be blowing into their steering wheel to see if they're allowed to drive.
Many people that get caught drink driving for the first time have just killed someone.
Let me ask my American guests about this, because I'd love to know what the rules are around drink driving. I presume it's state-based, is it, Eric? Do some states are they more lenient on blood alcohol levels in your body, or is it a federal kind of across-the-board limit?
Oh, it's well, it's across the board, the blood alcohol content level, and of course it's something that is adjudicated locally, state, and federal. And what you've seen in the United States is it's one of the reasons why vehicles have actually have been made to be so much more safer because of the amount of crashes. In the United States, one person dies every 44 minutes as a result of drunk driving. And this is something that has been, and the numbers have actually gone down, if you can believe that. But what we're seeing here in the U.S. is this is still very much a problem. In fact, that is why it's said that it's safer to actually fly on an airplane than it is to actually get behind the wheel of a car, because there is, the issue of someone getting behind the wheel who could potentially be inebriated, and what that might mean and what that might cause.
And is that because that's shockingly high, Victoria, one person dying every 45 minutes from drink driving specifically in the US. Is that simply because, do you think, so many places in America, you have to drive because there are such terrible public transport systems, particularly in remote areas, and that people think, I'm just going to get away with it? The triumph of optimism over potential reality.
Well, I actually think I'm more with Lewis on this, where, he said at the end of the day, you just have to trust people. As Eric just pointed out, our drunk driving statistics have actually gone down. I think a lot of it is partly due to development of technologies. Obviously, Uber and Lyft are very popular, but even in more rural areas, they're kind of coming to those areas and becoming more and more popular. I think also another part of it is really the public education campaign, particularly for students in high school. This is something that was drilled to us, at least once or twice a year. We had groups come in and do presentations in high school. And I actually just covered a couple of weeks ago, there was a congressman from New York. He's running in a vulnerable congressional seat this year, but he actually came forward with a drunk driving incident, or driving while intoxicated, I think was actually the charge, because there is a couple different charges that you can get charged here with in the US, including that DWI charge. But he actually shared that story first with a group of high school students, and this was something that he had done in his early 20s, kind of when he was just starting out. He was working as a staffer in politics in his early days, but this is something that he had kind of kept hidden. But he went out and talked to students about this to really show how common it is, and that even people who today are in high upstanding government positions, a lot of them have things like this in their past. But a lot of these presentations, what they involve is actually bringing a car from a drunk driving crash to students to kind of give them that sobering impact. And so I think there's definitely still a ways to go on this, but I think getting the word out there and really giving people something tangible to look at is definitely a good deterrent. And maybe it's kind of evolved in the last few years, but at least when my friends and I were growing up, it was always, your mom might not want to know that you are drinking, but she'll still come and pick you up, and she'll read you the rap sheet tomorrow, but she'd rather you be alive and not in jail, rather than admitting that you are drinking underage. And I think obviously we have that age of legal alcohol consumption higher here in the U.S. at 21, rather than the 18 that you see in the U.K. and across the world in many countries. But of course, we know that doesn't really deter people from drinking. Pretty much as soon as they're out of their parents' house, if not earlier than that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, guys. Yeah, my concern with the alco locks. It's your car that is giving you conditions as to whether you can get behind the wheel of it and drive. I know what you're thinking, Peter, and I know you're cross with me, but I think it's for me. It won't be. It will include AI. It will include facial recognition. You even now, there's some technology on cars now that if it sees you blink more slowly,
really,
that it will, because this car is sensing that you might be getting sleepy, and then it will warn you that you need to pull over, and it will turn itself off. Like, that technology is already there.
This
and it
is the whole thing. This is government. Give up all your freedoms.
Hours, how many miles you've driven. You've driven too many miles today, Peter Blexley. You've driven to that GB News. We don't like that GB News. We're turning your car off. because you're not towing the government line. That's our worry.
Yeah, and Lewis wants people to be free to drink and drive and kill people, to fall asleep at the wheel and kill people.
That's not what I want at all. I just trust people to be responsible. I don't want to give up all of my
can't trust them.
so the government
the
can keep me
stats
safe.
show it. The stats show it.
The stats show it's coming down and we're
deaths have come down is because cars are safer, not because people are behaving more responsibly.
Right. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
It's addictive. It's more addictive than cigarettes, I believe, especially for younger folk. You've got the colours on them. It's like multicolours and all that. It's attracting young kids in a way, you know.
I do feel like I need to give a translation to our American viewers whenever that boy speaks. That has a very strong Scottish accent. The Prime Minister has pledged to give local councils more power to block vape shops and bookmakers on the high street. Will it regenerate our much-needed towns and cities? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News. Quick look at that lovely weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of dry, sunny weather to be had through today, and it is going to be a bit hotter than yesterday, but temperatures rising further through this week. Now, there is some rain around across the north of Scotland. Here it will be cloudier and a few outbreaks of rain, but nothing particularly heavy. Elsewhere, for much of Northern Ireland, the rest of Scotland and across England and Wales, it is going to be dry. Not great news for those in desperate need of some rain with the ongoing drought. But yes, plenty of dry weather to come this week. And it is going to be a bit warmer than yesterday. Temperatures in the south peaking in the high 20s or low 30s, even further north where we get to low to mid 20s. It's going to feel pretty warm with generally light winds and some bright sunny weather around. Through this evening, a bit of rain affecting the Western Isles, perhaps Shetland as well. Elsewhere across Scotland, yes, there'll be some cloud across central, eastern, southern parts, but it should be largely fine. Northern Ireland staying largely fine as well, just the odd spot of rain towards the far west. And then for England and Wales, it's a dry picture through this evening, and we're ending the day in a similar note to how we'll have spent most of it, with lots of late sunshine. Overnight, England and Wales staying mostly clear and it will be dry. Scotland and Northern Ireland, however, it's cloudier. There'll be a few outbreaks of rain coming in, particularly western Northern Ireland and feeding into western parts of Scotland, and some of them could be a little bit on the heavy side. It is going to be a relatively warm night, temperatures holding up for many in the mid to high teens, particularly in your more built-up areas. Temperatures are rising further then as we go into Wednesday, with more hot air being dragged in from the south. So with that then, lots of sunshine for England and Wales. Scotland, Northern Ireland and the far north of England, a bit cloudier at times and outbreaks of rain. Could be heavy, could be a bit thundery at times tomorrow, but they will be quite hit and miss. With all that sunshine and that hotter air coming into southern areas, well, temperatures going to be even higher than today, peaking around 33.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome back. Just got caught eating one of Andrew Pearce's ginger nuts. Don't tell him. Right, welcome back. Andy Burnham has pledged to give local councils more power to block new vape shops and bookmakers in an effort to save your high street. The Prime Minister says that he intends to remove the aim to permit rule, which limits the ability of local authorities to prevent betting shops and 24-hour slot machine venues opening in their areas. It originally came under Tony Blair. So under these proposals, planning permission will be required for vape shops, and police will be given the right to shut down dodgy barbers, vape shops and nail salons for up to 1 year in order to conduct investigations. Now, government officials have said they will set clearer expectations for the design of high street shops to improve appearances, and will work with local authorities to create guidance on how to make town centres more attractive. With me now is Labour commentator Simon Nash. Simon, a very good evening to you. Now,
great to see you.
Andy Burnham's kind of policy sort of manifesto that we're seeing at the moment, it kind of reads like an angry person on a radio phone-in. It's all these issues, isn't it, that kind of a bit parochial maybe, but to his credit, it is the stuff that people care about. We care about our high streets. But is this the solution, or is he just tinkering around the edges, Simon?
Well, look, I think it is part of the solution. You know, the previous government, we had lots of libraries closing, and that really affects the high street. And look, vape shops have absolutely proliferated. I know GB News loves the Australian immigration system, the points-based system. Well, what about their vape system? So vaping is great if you are addicted to cigarettes and tobacco. Then vaping is a great alternative. Now in Australia, you need a prescription to buy a vape. It's a prescription product to medically get people off smoking. As you know, in the UK, you can buy vapes at 18. They're very colourful. And if you know any teenagers under 18, you'll know that lots of them do vape. These are marketed at children by the flavours like mint and or bubblegum and pineapple mint. They're very tempting variety. I would say as well, why are supermarkets selling these products, and why are supermarkets selling tobacco whilst giving thousands of pounds to cancer charities? They're literally giving away to cancer charities whilst making money from cancer. Yeah. And the state of our high streets is bad in many ways. Lots of these shops are used for money laundering. And I think it's something that people, it's like an open secret, isn't it? People talk about American sweet shops where you go in and it's sort of 15 quid for a pack of sugary sweets. They're just laundering money. And I think people are a bit sick of it. That could be funding, you know, or laundering the money from exploitative prostitution and harm, you know. I live on the edge of Brixton, lots of heroin addicts and other kinds of drug addicts that walking on the streets. They're not happy. They're being fed by drug dealers who are presumably laundering their money through shops like this. So I think it's a really good thing that he's sort of cracking down on this rather than it just being a sort of big, open British joke that this is going on.
I mean, he's saying, Andy Burnham's saying that basically the councils will have more authority to turn down the vape shop that wants to set up on their high street. But there are no other businesses opening up and making money, Simon. So I can't help but think the council's going to say, oh, do you know what? I'll take the vape shop. I'd rather that than a boarded up business. Doesn't he need to do something more meaningful for all businesses so that there can be startups, there can be new coffee shops and, you know, places that bring people together, new beauticians, salons or hairdressers, all the stuff that we seem to be losing. He needs to do more than just this, doesn't he?
Well, I think you're right. At the end of the day, vaping is pretty harmful. And I encourage anyone involved in smoking or vaping just to take up deep breathing and focus on your breath, because that's what these smoking companies have sort of corporatized at the end of the day. I think that these empty units, well, if they're empty for a long time, then higher business rates can come in to force the landlord into renting the units out. And then you will get more entrepreneurs renting these units for something more interesting than another colourful, white, unglamorous vape shop. I do think, actually, with the libraries, I don't know why they haven't just given franchise space to coffee shops in these libraries. Imagine if every library in the UK had a great coffee shop. They'd be getting thousands of pounds in rent. People would come in. It'd be an absolute win-win. We need more entrepreneurial solutions like this. And I don't think, you know, business rates being reduced, and I know that they're going to give some level of corporation tax and other income to councils from local businesses. I went to Bulgaria quite recently, and there they don't have high-speed internet. So online retailers haven't obliterated the high streets. You walk down the road, and there's like a street full of haberdasheries. You think, well, actually, what really is the upside of a high-speed internet in the UK? They're trying to cut off our phone lines, which is great for Vladimir Putin, because once everything in the UK is internet-based, well, it's very easy in a war. You get the internet cut off, and we're all going to be suffering. And, well, we have slightly higher streaming speeds and online shopping. Well, actually, countries with a slower internet actually have richer high streets and a richer, more diverse, interesting, rich society in lots of ways.
Simon,
so,
that's not the solution. Yeah. That's not the solution to our high streets is slowing down our internet. But that was a classic Simon Nash moment where you start down an interview one way and then you end up taking this little turn, and it does make me smile. Never fails to make me smile. Simon, good to see you. Simon Nash, Labour commentator there. Let me ask my panel here, Lewis. I don't know whether this... Look, this is one of these classic Andy Burnham policies, right? It sounds great. The headline is brilliant. We all hate the vape shops, and there's so much we can do with our high streets. The bookies are not a great look for any high street, although I have to say I don't have as much of a problem with the bookmakers than I do the vape shops or the candy stores or the barbers. But I'm not sure he's doing much.
Well, so, look, I have liked a lot of what Andy Burnham has been doing about let's get power out of London, let's give more power to local people. This is the first time with that whole trail of thought where I thought, hold on. If you give local councils more power, where does that end? So, yeah, we're just getting rid of vape shops, and then, we're just making sure that everyone on the high street has got a really good net zero policy. Again, there's scope creep, so that makes me a little bit nervous. I then think the point that you said is like, OK, but getting rid of bad business doesn't necessarily create good business. You've then got a load of boarded up shops anyway, so no one's going there anyway. I think what we have to really talk about, because this again comes to the cost of living, and I don't think people understand it. If people are spending half of their take-home pay on their rent or their mortgage and the rest is going on their shop, no one has got the 10 grand that they've managed to save up and say, you know what, I've got this really random idea of making some really cool socks. I'm going to buy a place, we're going to just get these commissioned and we're going to sell them. Like, that just doesn't happen now. We have killed that entrepreneurial spirit because no one has the startup money anymore. So I don't really know what he thinks is going to replace this unless he's got this is like a phase one. It's like, well, we'll do the easy bit, ban this stuff, but what are you going to replace it? And that is a lot harder to fix.
Yeah, it is harder to fix, isn't it?
Talk's cheap, and Burnham does a lot of it.
Yeah.
And it's window dressing, most of it. It's things that people are going to go, oh, that sounds really good, and yet how is he going to implement it? How's he going to pay for it? And if you strip out, and I was in Warrington just last month.
Right.
Walking up and down High Street, 3 vape shops. Shutters down, big stickers on them from Cheshire Police. And when I spoke to locals about it, they were thrilled. The locals were very, very happy that they'd been closed down.
So they weren't necessarily selling vapes?
Well, there were temporary orders.
Who knows what they were doing?
They were temporary orders, but shutters down, bolted, and signs on the front of them. And locals said, yeah, it's a better high street for it. It was also a high street that had bookies. Every high street should have a bookies in it. But again, I've been in high streets this year when there's been 3 or 4 bookies, and it's not a great look. Then you've got the charity shops, then you've got the nail bars.
Yeah.
And so it goes.
Tattoo parlours. Don't even get me started on that.
But we need to reduce business rates and taxes to encourage people to take these shops over and give them an opportunity to make a living.
I know.
Not taxing everyone to death.
Exactly. Let's have a quick look at something that's gone pretty viral online today. So this is a Brazilian footballer's goal celebration. Went badly wronged. He was OK, because when I saw this, I was quite traumatised, but he was absolutely fine. But this footballer jumped over the advertising boards after scoring a goal and fell down a massive hole into the changing rooms. Have a quick look. It's the player, JC Maranhão. He did escape without serious injury. It was, honestly, it's extraordinary. And to add insult to injury, a video assistant referee's decision then ruled out the goal that he was celebrating. Have a quick look. Do we have time to show that again? It's the kind of thing. And can I talk over it so people listening on the radio know actually what's happening? I'm not sure whether I can, but if you are listening on the radio, this footballer, he runs over to the side of the pitch, over the hoardings, and then as he goes, leaps in the air, and on the other side is a big 6-foot square hole that is the entrance to the dressing room underneath the ground, and he disappeared straight down it. Bit unlucky, wasn't it?
How did he not hurt himself? How was he fine?
I don't know.
Look before you leap, young JC.
Look before you leap is the motto to that particular story. Let me go to America. We've got a couple more minutes before we move on, and there's not a huge amount of debate to be had about a man jumping down a hole. The metaphor is strong, let me say, about some of the topics we talk about here today. But let me ask Victoria and Eric what we were just talking about then about our high streets, guys. And do you have the same problem with vape shops and, I was going to say American candy stores, but they're kind of normal to you. They're a novelty. obviously, to us, and the demise of the high street in America, Eric. Is that something you're seeing?
Well, yeah, we see those, but of course, here in the U.S., vaping has become increasingly popular. In fact, now there's a growing concern that children have engaged because of the different flavors that have been added. And so now, much like the cigarette campaign and to try to move children away or young adults from smoking, you're now seeing more public service announcements about the potential dangers of vaping and how younger people should stay away from it. And now, of course, you're seeing more state, local, even federal officials now attempting to try to crack down because it did begin to gain this large popularity as a result.
Yeah, it's huge here amongst teenagers. How old do you have to be to buy a vape in America, Victoria?
I believe it's 18, just like it is for all other nicotine products. But, it's interesting. I think there's kind of two categories of people that I look at when I look at vaping. There's the people that are picking it up because it's an alternative to cigarettes or marijuana, which of course is also becoming increasingly popular as it's been either legalized or decriminalized by many states, even though it still remains federally illegal. But then there's also people, I know quite a few people around my age who are in their late 20s or early 30s that were cigarette smokers, and they've actually switched to vaping as a less harmful product. And so I think, as people say, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, the harm is in the eye of or I guess in the lung of this case of the person that's partaking in it.
I've got to cut you off, Victoria. I'm so sorry. We're up against the clock, but more to come in the next hour, including this.
And this place was emblematic of it with the crime, the horrible crime. I think right now, it's better than it has been in years. Everybody's safe now. Everybody feels safe.
So that was a year ago. National Guard troops were deployed onto the streets of DC. Just how are the stats holding out? GB News on the ground.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of dry, sunny weather to be had through today, and it is going to be a bit hotter than yesterday, but temperatures rising further through this week. Now, there is some rain around across the north of Scotland. Here it will be cloudier and a few outbreaks of rain, but nothing particularly heavy. Elsewhere, for much of Northern Ireland, the rest of Scotland, and across England and Wales, it is going to be dry. Not great news for those in desperate need of some rain with the ongoing drought, but yes, plenty of dry weather to come this week. And it is going to be a bit warmer than yesterday. Temperatures in the south peaking in the high 20s or low 30s, even further north where we get to low to mid 20s. It's going to feel pretty warm with generally light winds and some bright sunny weather around. Through this evening, a bit of rain affecting the Western Isles, perhaps Shetland as well. Elsewhere across Scotland, yes, there'll be some cloud across central, eastern, southern parts, but it should be largely fine. Northern Ireland staying largely fine as well, just the odd spot of rain towards the far west. And then for England and Wales, it's a dry picture through this evening, and we're ending the day in a similar note to how we'll have spent most of it, with lots of late sunshine. Overnight, England and Wales staying mostly clear, and it will be dry. Scotland and Northern Ireland, however, it's cloudier. There'll be a few outbreaks of rain coming in, particularly western Northern Ireland and feeding into western parts of Scotland, and some of them could be a little bit on the heavy side. It is going to be a relatively warm night, temperatures holding up for many in the mid to high teens, particularly in your more built-up areas. Temperatures are rising further then as we go into Wednesday, with more hot air being dragged in from the south. So with that then, lots of sunshine for England and Wales. Scotland, Northern Ireland and the far north of England, a bit cloudier at times, and outbreaks of rain. Could be heavy, could be a bit thundery at times tomorrow, but they will be quite hit and miss. With all that sunshine and that hotter air coming into southern areas, well, temperatures going to be even higher than today, peaking around 33.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray,
Are you a human trafficker?
boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Very good evening, good morning, live from London. This is Bev Turner on GB News with the stories shaping Great Britain and America tonight.
I feel for the family it's an appalling crime that was committed. The main perpetrator will not be subject to any early release.
Breaking news for Late Show viewers. An exclusive statement from one of the first responders to the death of PC Andrew Harper. It has condemned the possibility that his killers could be eligible for early release, saying that the government is spitting in the faces of police officers. As Andy Burnham begins his listening tour of the country, why won't he meet with PC Harper's mother also?
To house a foreign national offender in El Salvador will be half the cost of housing foreign national offender in this country.
Reform UK has promised a mass deportation of foreign nationals from Britain's prisons. Taking a leaf out of President Trump's book, the party's Home Affairs spokesman Zia Youssef has revealed that offenders could be sent to countries like El Salvador. But is it a workable policy or just a good headline grabber? They look really thrilled about it. Also tonight.
And this place was emblematic of it with the crime, the horrible crime. I think now, right now, it's better than it has been in years. Everybody's safe now. Everybody feels safe.
Well, I personally thank President Trump for doing that, because a year ago, National Guard troops were deployed onto the streets of Washington, D.C. President Trump said it was necessary to tackle crime. I can tell you, it does feel safe. But how are the stats holding out? GB News is on the ground tonight to tell all. Also,
day one of freezing my eggs, I'm diving into the process, and now I've got, let's see, all of this medicine here.
Just extraordinary. American Democrat Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has revealed that she's freezing her eggs and she's sharing the process on social media. Now, this is a woman that would like to be president one day. Is it empowering or quite the opposite? We're going to have a debate on that later. Also tonight.
We will teach our children to love our country, to honor our history, and to always respect our great American flag.
A descendant of slaves has criticised the Smithsonian National Museum of American History in D.C. for what he said amounts to anti-American indoctrination against the greatest nation on earth. Is Trump right to tackle the fight against so-called woke history? I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. Joining me this evening in London, my panel, former Scotland Yard detective, friend of the show, friend of the channel, Peter Blexley, broadcaster and podcaster Lewis Oakley is with us as well. And in Washington, we've got from the Daily Mail, Victoria Churchill, and US political analyst Eric Ham. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. And thank you at home as well for joining me. It's nice to be back in London for a change. Now, a year ago, National Guard troops were deployed onto the streets of Washington, D.C. in a move that the Trump administration said was necessary to tackle crime. Since then, crime has fallen. But the debate over why and whether the military should remain on the streets of the US Capitol is far from over. With me now is GB News reporter Will Mayrick. Will, thank you so much for joining us. You're there on the streets of D.C. Does it feel safe, Will?
Well, Bev, that is the big question that everyone is asking. So this is all part of a big mission which has been set in Washington, D.C., which is called to make the city safe and beautiful. And as part of this, it's brought together state, federal and local law enforcement, as well as the National Guard. And their mission has been to make the streets safer. So questions are, how much is it costing? Well, at the moment, it's costing $3 million a day to have the National Guard on the streets. And today it's been announced that they will be extended until 2029 at a cost that the Pentagon are estimating to $1.4 billion. Well, the US have the money for it. Their defense budget is trillions of dollars. So is it making the streets safer? Well, looking at the evidence, crime overall in Washington, D.C. is down. Car theft is down by 53%. Property crime is down by 23%. However, at the same point last year, violent crime, there's still 55 more cases of violent crime in Washington, D.C. as at the same point last year. The murder rate, however, is down by 31% compared to the same point last year. So overall, crime is down. It's looking promising for Washington, D.C. And you think, well, let's compare the UK and the US, the capital city in London. You can't really compare the two, however, though. Murder rates in Washington, D.C. are much higher. It's around, most recent stats is around 20 people per 100,000 are killed per year on the streets of Washington, D.C., where it's 1.1 per 100,000 in London. That's kind of under much criticism, lots of people turning around and saying the military don't need to be on the streets, but actually law enforcement is enough. However, when you walk around in Washington, D.C., many people will tell you, you see groups of 4 people in combat gear patrolling the streets on a regular basis, and they do feel safe. You look at the Correspondents' Dinner, some of the first people to respond to the shooting at the Correspondents' Dinner were the National Guard. So there is a question actually as to whether it is beneficial in Washington, D.C. Now, it's only been a year so far, so maybe in a couple of years' time, they'll be able to compare the statistics and work out whether it has been beneficial. But it's looking like crime is down. It's more like petty crime rather than kind of murder rate. However, it's looking promising. So it waits to be seen whether this will continue. But I think over the next few years, potentially, it could be a really positive thing for Washington, D.C.
We obviously both live in D.C. at the moment, Will, and I don't know about you, but I certainly feel safer on the streets of DC than I do on the streets of London. And I mean, like, on a really basic level, in that you can be on your phone in DC and you're not conscious that somebody might take it out of your hand on an e-bike. And yes, we know that because they have guns, the significance or the seriousness of some sort of criminal interaction could be greater than it might be on the streets of London. But it's hard to articulate to people how safe you feel when you see the National Guard, especially when I'm a woman walking around on my own and coming back from doing this show late in DC and walking back into my apartment. And there are 4 men in uniform, sometimes 2 men, 2 women, whatever it is, armed guards, effectively, there to protect the public. Would you like to see them in London, something similar?
Well, I think that's fascinating. I remember the first few weeks, I moved here 4 months ago, and within the first few weeks of being here, I was walking along with a group of friends, and I had my phone out, and I had both hands holding it. And from living in London for the last 10 years, someone turned around to me and went, "What are you doing?" And I went, "Well, I'm holding onto my phone so that someone doesn't steal it." And they went, "Don't be ridiculous, that doesn't happen around here." Whereas in London, I wouldn't walk down Oxford Street, I wouldn't walk down Regent Street with my phone out. I know people who have cases which have a string that wraps around their body so that their phone doesn't get taken. You speak to people in London, and the majority of people have or know someone who has had their phone taken. However, like you say here, you walk along the street and there is that reassurance. It's the visibility, and whether it's actually being tackled, maybe it's just parts of the city where there is far more violent crime and you just don't see it because you live in a different part. But there is that reassurance that you think, if I did need it, I know within 100 meters I can find someone. And it's interesting, when you walk along the streets here, is that you constantly see the National Guard, and there's always 4 of them in pockets on street corners, and they come from all over the United States. They're not just from Washington, DC. In fact, there's probably about 600 at the moment who are actually from DC. They come from states all over the US, so from South Carolina, from Georgia, and so they're bringing their skills from all over the United States. At the moment, there's about 4,600 of them. At peak in the summer around 4th of July, there was about 5,000. However, I don't know whether in London, I mean, lots of people and a lot of our viewers probably would be supportive of having the military on the streets because it would make them feel safer. Many of them are veterans and see that the skill set that they bring would be incredibly important to law enforcement, because a lot of our police don't carry guns. So therefore, there isn't people aren't scared, whereas here the police are scary. They will. I mean, you'll see it as well down by the White House. There is no shortage of law enforcement, whether it's Secret Service, whether it's the police, and you feel safe. They're not scared to shout at you and tell you if you're right in the way and there's a motorcade on the way. They're not afraid to tell you to get out of the way. And I think that is something that potentially in the UK, it's all about recruiting people that look right rather than the people that you're actually meant to be scared of, because I'd rather look at my police. I mean, you even go into Europe, you go into France. I remember being there for the Olympics in Paris, and they brought in police from Italy, from Spain, from France, and you looked at them and you thought, I'm scared of you. And that's a good thing, because therefore I feel safe, and you wouldn't want to mess with them. And I think that's potentially what we need a bit more of in the UK. Is it's not about recruiting the right person, it's about recruiting the person that is going to make you feel safe and has a skill set to do that.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Will. Will Mayrick there for GB News on the ground in DC. You will have seen there protests, Peter, and people going, why would people protest there being the National Guard? I cannot tell you how controversial it is to the people of DC that you've got armed federal National Guards forces policing the streets. And the objection, I can't get my head around it personally, but the objection is we aren't a dangerous state. We don't need this. It makes us seem more dangerous than we are.
I wonder what the people who weren't protesting about the National Guard deployment but have seen a drop in crime rates, who do regard DC as being safer now, I'd like to see them interviewed to see what they think about this action and whether they welcome it and embrace it and want it to continue. I suspect in all likelihood they will.
Yeah.
But there's a link to another story here that we've covered today. Not so many years ago, El Salvador was utterly lawless, and President Bukele put the military onto the streets together with the police and took the gangs on, head on, and won. And now, from being one of the most dangerous places on earth, El Salvador is regarded as being safe.
Because they went zero tolerance and clamped down really hard on it. I'm fascinated by this idea that there are people that don't want the National Guard on the streets, Lewis. And actually, I can relate to what they say. They say the government shouldn't be putting agents of the government on our streets because they might say, if we don't agree with President Trump, they're going to arrest us and lock us up. It's the kind of mentality that you and I might have if, say, Biden was in office and the troops were on the ground. I might be nervous that I'm going to get arrested because I may not agree with him. But in the instances that I see it in DC, it's brilliant and amazing and reassuring.
You're going to throw Andrew and Miriam's cookies at me. So
Go on, I'd love to hear what you say.
I don't want to downplay crime at all. A reduction in crime anywhere is a fantastic, positive thing. But I did read this headline and think, so what? Like, Trump sorted out his front door. Like, what are we talking about? What about, you're the president of the United States, not the president of Washington. Surely there is someone else in Washington that could have had the power to have sorted out crime. What about the 330 million other Americans and the crime that they're facing? I mean, I've got to be honest, like, I just don't think this is it's great that the president has done this, but unless there's a wider plan to say, oh, well, we're going to roll this out everywhere, and you can't. 1.4 billion, you can't roll that out everywhere. So to me, this is a bit like Andy Banning turning to me and say, Lewis, I've spent £1 billion and we've seriously reduced the crime in Warsaw. I would say, Andy, what about the rest of the UK? What are we talking about here?
That is one of the criticisms that it gets, is that it's no long-term plan. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a feeling that Washington was the murder capital of America.
OK.
I think that it definitely was for a period of time. It might have lost that top spot when Trump came into office already. But I think it's the fact that it's the capital city as well of the country. That's what I think motivates him to make it super pristine. He's working on all the monuments and safe.
But if you spent 1.4 billion on anything, you would improve it. So I don't, like, I would just like
Really?
to see, what have we got for that?
Really? Have you used the NHS recently? Right? This is a law enforcement strategy. And law enforcement is expensive, eye-wateringly expensive, and we've got cuts to our policing budgets coming down the line. Over here, we'll be seeing police officer numbers being reduced even further, and of course that's going to happen at a time when we're releasing thousands more criminals out early onto the streets of the UK.
Yeah.
What do we all think the result of that's going to be? I wonder.
Yeah, absolutely. You see, and also one of the reasons it's so expensive is they're having to house these National Guard within the city, so they don't have houses. I've quite a few of them live in my building. I have to say, though, on a completely shallow level, it is never a hardship to see men in uniform walking around the streets and around my building. Peter Bush.
I worked in uniform for a very short amount of time before becoming a detective, Miss Turner. I'd just like to make that perfectly clear.
Bring me a photo. Right.
But you can't have the National Guard everywhere, so I don't know what we're supposed to have learned from this. What have we learned?
I agree. It's a very good point. Right, moving on to our main news just now. US Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has announced her decision to freeze her eggs, sharing the first steps of her process on social media.
Don't be weird about this, even though I know all of you will be. All right, everyone. Deco and I, day one of freezing my eggs. I'm diving into the process, and now I've got, let's see, all of this medicine here. Obviously, I'm not doing this on live right now. Could you imagine? I didn't want to distract myself too much by being on live because I'm injecting myself with things. Oh, maybe later. Maybe if I become a pro at this, I'll do that.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? So the New York Democrat, she's not ruled out the possibility of running for president. I mean, some would say this is partly to do with that. She talked through the tips that she's learnt and answered questions on how fertility care works. Her later interview, she explained she wants to normalise conversations about the process, even if there is a political risk in doing so. Now, this maybe isn't your wheelhouse, this, Peter Blexley. I don't know. I'll
be the judge of that, thank you.
Very sexist of me. What's your conclusion when you see that? What example is she setting?
It's her body.
You mean her body, her choice?
Yeah, she can fry, poach or scramble them as far as I'm concerned.
I couldn't agree more. Exactly that, and I wish her nothing but well with this. But is she playing into this idea for the next generation that you can always come up with a tech or pharmaceutical solution to anything, and that actually having a baby is something that we have to take more seriously, and we shouldn't really view it as just kind of ordering an Uber on an app?
She's being a performative politician, and we've got enough of them over here. We've been talking about Mr. Burnham. It's all performative, performance kind of faff, most of it, and that's what people get frustrated with, and that's why politicians are held in such low regard. There are far more important things, I'm sure, she could be doing with her time, but no, she's doing it for the gram, for Instagram or whatever other platform it is.
And there's no guarantee that you're going to have a baby if you freeze your eggs. So as we said, she's, whatever she is, 36, thank you. So let me give you some stats on this. In 2023, the average UK live birth rate following IVF embryo transfer was 35% if you're aged 18 to 34. If you're aged 43 to 44, using your own eggs, which presumably she would one day hope to do, the chance of having a live birth is only 5%, Lewis.
I mean, this is the thing, and I actually do think that we're having better conversations about this now. And, you know, there was, I think, a lot of stigma around men even having an opinion on this, or anyone that was seen to be not feminist. But the reality is, and people are coming around to now, like, freezing your eggs is not a guarantee of anything. I do think it's great what she's doing. You know, she's normalising this. There are a lot of people that are going through this, not just because they're a bit older, but because they're having trouble. So I think more people talking about it is great. The thing is, freezing your eggs is one thing. You cannot freeze energy. I'm 34 years old. I have 3 children. I'm exhausted constantly. So the idea that if she's 36, she might have children in 40s or 50s. I mean, I look at some of these old rockers sometimes who are having babies in their 80s. I'm like, well, you must be able to afford great help because I would be dead. Like, having a child at that age. But I do think it's important that we say to people, you know, the fertility window is the fertility window. If having children is very important to you, you are going to have to prioritise it. There are scientific things that might be able to help you get around that, but as you just highlighted, they're not foolproof and it's not a guarantee. And it's a lot harder for women as well. I know 3 women that had children in their late teens, early 20s, and then again in their late 30s, and they were like, oh my God, like, I didn't even really notice I was pregnant in my 20s, but now it's a killer. So I just think it's a better conversations. There's no one that needs to be cancelled over anything, but I do think we have to be realistic with people. This is very hard, and the energy you cannot freeze.
Let me speak to a guest on this. I'm talking to the David Boaz Resident Writing Fellow at Young Voices, Sam Rouse. Sam, a very good evening to you. Good morning from the UK. AOC, doing this publicly. Why?
I think that something that's really core to the American identity is the freedom to choose, the diversity of lifestyles that we all live. And what AOC is doing is, you know, a personal decision of her own choices. It's her and her family's decision. Her and her partner chose to do this. And I think the backlash against it is really misplaced. We, you know, really don't need to comment on people's personal familial decisions, regardless of whether they're done in the public eye. And obviously a figure as popular and well-known as she is will get a lot of attention and scrutiny. But it you know, it's trying to pontificate about what's going on behind the scenes, what her, you know, health is, what her life decisions are going to be. And it's just misplaced. It's not our room to comment on.
She has absolutely invited our commentary by taking the public so intimately into this process, Sam. And just clarify, she is in a relationship then, isn't she, in a long-term relationship? You see, and I would say, well, perhaps at 36, if she's in a long-term relationship, this is the time to have a baby. You know, that is purely from an observer's point of view. I'm just wondering why she wouldn't be doing that. And she might argue, well, I've got a career to have. But you know what? Babies can't wait. Fertility can't wait.
Yeah, I you know, I can't I don't know what her personal decision is. She didn't provide us much explanation, but I would say in terms of, appealing to younger voters, in terms of winning over the moderate middle of America, the swing districts of this country, it's misplaced really to comment on this decision of hers. I think it resonates poorly a lot of times when the right is, weighing in on people's, familial decisions, their lifestyle choices. It just doesn't resonate with such a large base of particularly younger people, people in urban areas and suburban areas. When there's such bigger issues to be focusing on. I mean, if we want to criticize AOC, there's a whole host of economic policies that are absolutely atrocious. I don't think that her decision whether or not to have a baby yet is really relevant. I think that's kind of in the celebrity drama category of things. We're going to be talking about Taylor Swift next rather than, her proposals to freeze the rent and socialize healthcare. I think those are a lot more concerning.
Yeah, freezing the rent rather than freezing her eggs maybe is more concerning. But it has, if she wanted, Sam, for this to make her front and centre of newspapers and programmes like this, it's worked. I hope that wasn't her motivation.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a concern with politicians seeking publicity, but I think that something that we see more and more with a lot of these younger voices on both sides of the aisle is that there's a level of authenticity that them in the digital world that they just kind of want to put themselves out there and talk about what they're doing, what their life going on in their life. And we see a lot of transparency now from members of Congress about their mental health status, about their physical health. And I think that's a great evolution coming off of generations where you would have major scandals and changes to compositions of power because these people weren't being transparent about what's going on behind the scenes. And it just didn't really resonate with the ordinary person. I think the regular voter likes to know a little bit of detail like this. And I think that they, whether or not they agree with her or would make the same decisions, they respect her choice and are willing to listen.
OK, Sam, thank you so much. Sam Rouse there. Thank you. Right, moving on. British engineering giants, JCB, is proving to the world how hydrogen fuel is the future, and they're doing so in exciting style. The company is down at the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah, hoping to break a world land speed record in a hydrogen-powered car. Engineered in Britain, the Hydro Max vehicle clocks 1,600 bhp and will be piloted by RAF officer Andy Green. Now, they've been on 2 important test runs today in Utah ahead of the big world record attempt, and our very own Ben Leo has been keeping tabs on the action. Lucky him. Have a look.
Hi GB News viewers, Ben Leo here on the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah, where JCB, British engineering construction giant, is hoping to break a land speed world record in a hydrogen-powered car. 30,000 acres of salt plains here, 12 miles long, 5 miles wide. Let's go and check out what's going on today. So just behind me, the JCB team are preparing for the second test run today. Andy Green on standby to absolutely hurtle down this salt plain behind us in Utah. This will be the last time he does this before the run proper later today. And that's the one that counts, the 2 runs in front of the FIA motorsport officials. The average speed will be taken to clock potentially what could be, which I think will be, a land speed record for a hydrogen-powered car. This is where the magic happens, a 10-mile stretch where JCB will be hoping to break that land speed record. That first orange marker there in the distance, that's only 1 mile. Andy Green has 10 of them to set that record. Yesterday, they embarked on 2 test runs, making sure the car was OK, checking out the tyres, the engines, the safety. And later today comes the big world record attempt in front of FIA motorsport officials. Their target, 350 miles per hour. But I've got a funny feeling they might go a little bit faster than that.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Adrian, thank you for having us. Really appreciate being here. It's JCB, British success story, of course, engineering and construction. Why this? Why are you hurtling a hydrogen car down the salt flats?
So we introduced hydrogen engines into our construction equipment, like this backhoe loader, nearly a year ago now. And if we're going to persuade people that hydrogen is an alternative to batteries and to diesel, there's no better way than really taking a product that is a standard JCB hydrogen engine, putting it into a race car and really taking that to the ultimate limit.
And that's exactly what you did with the Diesel Max nearly 20 odd years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was very much around building a pedigree, really getting people comfortable that if a product is strong enough and durable enough to do that extreme performance, then clearly it's going to be suitable to do tens of thousands of hours within a construction duty. If you're really serious about zero emissions, hydrogen has got a place.
What have your critics said about this? Some people saying that, I mean, going back to Diesel Max 20 years ago, they said it couldn't be done. Why did you do it?
So, in terms of why we did it, was very much around proving those critics wrong. We've proved that basically through engineering ingenuity, our absolute drive and obsession about quality, we've been able to actually develop a race engine that also has a place within our construction offering.
And the 30,000-acre salt flats here are literally 12 miles long, 5 miles wide of pure salt. Believe it or not, this used to be, around 34,000 years ago, Lake Bonneville. Now it's a salt flat. It's where Andy Green is hoping to break that record. They don't use this on, say, your fish and chips back home, although it is extracted commercially, but for fertiliser. It's called potash. But for now, Andy Green's using it to set that land speed record.
Thank you, Ben Leo. He gets all the good gigs, doesn't he? That looks amazing. I think this is so interesting, though, Peter. If hydrogen, I mean, I kind of, the question I want to know, is it going to blow up and burst into flame?
Well, let's sincerely hope not. But seeing as that used to be a lake, have Thames Water been running it? Is that why it's now a salt flat? I just love stories like this.
I do.
British engineering.
I know.
We don't do enough of it.
It's brilliant. And do you know what as well, Lewis? It's the fact that we are now all talking about hydrogen engines because of this. And they probably are the future. I mean, I made the joke about is it going to burst into flames? But that's the concern with hydrogen, as per the Hindenburg, is that this could be very flammable. If they can sort that issue out, we should all be driving hydrogen cars.
Yeah, well, let's leave it up to personal choice. What I quite liked about this is that rather than saying, right, you're all going to have to go to this untested technology, this is the way to do it, right? Yeah. They're going to break a world record. They're going to prove that this works before rolling it out. And I think that's really the way to go. They're not forcing anything, they're not mandating anything. They're saying, we think this could work. Watch us beat this world record, and we're going to keep making you think, I want one of those. That's the way to do it. And it does make you proud to be British, because I was reading the story the other day, and it was like, we're going to have to close one of our space telescopes. It just makes you think we're a country on decline. But you see things like this, and you're like, oh no, we are doing good stuff in the world. We are leading in something. Great. Yeah.
Let me go to my American guests on this. Let's talk to Victoria and Eric about it. I mean, you know, you've got that spectacular landscape, but we've got the technology. We've got the JCB brand. This is Britain doing something well, isn't it, Eric?
Yeah, that's great. I guess the larger question is this something that can be mass produced, or will we see more cars actually run on hydrogen and less on traditional fuel? And so I think here in the United States, there is this big question, or I think this big tension between EVs, electric vehicles, versus gas-powered vehicles. The issue of hydrogen doesn't even come into play. But again, I think this is just another potential opportunity for more diversity in the market itself.
Yeah, Victoria, I mean, we're all looking forward to seeing it. I presume it will be tomorrow now, I think Ben said there. I'm hoping that they're still there and they can actually bring the event to us, Ben, our cameraman. But I love this. I love this spirit of endeavour. I love the human need, in collaboration with technology, in a good way for once, to exceed the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, America has always been on the forefront of innovation, and it's great to see, our friends across the pond also partaking in all of the great work and, really creating their own technologies and experimenting with them on American soil. If it's something that moves the human race forward, it's good. And if it's something that could be made to actually be tangible, I think, as Eric noted, for kind of the greater consumer market, that's also a win in my book.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's why we see so much improvements in technology in our cars, because of motorsport. They try them out on Formula One, they try it out on Formula E, and then it makes its way to the consumer market eventually. So, all credit to JCB. I think it's brilliant. Right, no doubt Ben will let us know how it's all going. Still to come on The Late Show Live.
We will teach our children to love our country, to honor our history, and to always respect our great American flag.
So, a descendant of slaves has criticised the Smithsonian National Museum of American History in D.C. for what he has said amounts to anti-American indoctrination against the greatest nation on earth. Is Trump right to tackle the fight against so-called woke history? What does he mean by that? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News. Very quick look at the wonderful weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of dry, sunny weather to be had through today, and it is going to be a bit hotter than yesterday, but temperatures rising further through this week. Now, there is some rain around across the north of Scotland. Here it will be cloudier and a few outbreaks of rain, but nothing particularly heavy. Elsewhere, for much of Northern Ireland, the rest of Scotland and across England and Wales, it is going to be dry. Not great news for those in desperate need of some rain with the ongoing drought, but yes, plenty of dry weather to come this week. And it is going to be a bit warmer than yesterday. Temperatures in the south peaking in the high 20s or low 30s, even further north where we get to low to mid 20s. It's going to feel pretty warm with generally light winds and some bright sunny weather around. Through this evening, a bit of rain affecting the Western Isles, perhaps Shetland as well. Elsewhere across Scotland, yes, there'll be some cloud across central, eastern, southern parts, but it should be largely fine. Northern Ireland staying largely fine as well, just the odd spot of rain towards the far west. And then for England and Wales, it's a dry picture through this evening, and we're ending the day in a similar note to how we'll have spent most of it, with lots of late sunshine. Overnight, England and Wales staying mostly clear, and it will be dry. Scotland and Northern Ireland, however, it's cloudier. There'll be a few outbreaks of rain coming in, particularly western Northern Ireland and feeding into western parts of Scotland, and some of them could be a little bit on the heavy side. It is going to be a relatively warm night, temperatures holding up for many in the mid to high teens, particularly in your more built-up areas. Temperatures are rising further then as we go into Wednesday, with more hot air being dragged in from the south. So with that then, lots of sunshine for England and Wales. Scotland, Northern Ireland and the far north of England, a bit cloudier at times, and outbreaks of rain could be heavy, could be a bit thundery at times tomorrow, but they will be quite hit and miss. With all that sunshine and that hotter air coming into southern areas, well, temperatures are going to be even higher than today, peaking around 33.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Now, Earl Walker Jackson, a black bishop and author who is also a descendant of enslaved ancestors, has criticised the Smithsonian National Museum of American History for what he said amounts to anti-American indoctrination.
And you've got people so indoctrinated into seeing our country sliced and diced into race and ethnicity and class and income and so forth, that they fail to understand the blessing of the United States of America. There is no place on earth that has been more affirming of human dignity, offered more opportunity for human flourishing, and frankly acknowledged, in spite of the apparent differences that we have, that we are ultimately one nation under God. Now, have we been perfect at it? No. But if you compare us to the rest of the world, we ought to be celebrating, not denigrating our country. So it makes me angry when people do this to our country.
So the Smithsonian Museum has previously faced criticism because the White House accused the museum of promoting woke ideology. In July, the White House Domestic Policy Council released a 162-page report entitled Saving America's Story, containing images of exhibits and information about museum curators and leaders, which brought additional scrutiny. With me now is Democratic strategist, friend of the show, Richard Goodstein. Richard, thank you so much for joining me this evening from Washington, D.C. Lovely to see you. Right, what is going on here with this culture around your museums in America and rewriting history to basically depict America as a bad place that should feel guilty about the things that you have done?
So I think this is in the eye of the beholder. In terms of being faithful to history, since Donald Trump's been president, he's required the National Portrait Gallery, part of the Smithsonian Institute, to strip any reference to his having been impeached, but he's perfectly happy to have references to the impeachments of Bill Clinton, Richard Nixon, and Andrew Johnson. So this is not somebody for whom faithful rendition of history is a top priority. And they removed references, say, to George Washington having owned slaves, and they removed the gay flag from the Stonewall Monument, which was the place where the gay rights movement took hold. And there's a long list of places where this White House would rather the public not know of the struggles that took place to acquire civil rights. I guess woke, I think, is in the eye of the beholder. What Donald Trump considers woke, most historians would consider history. A history that Trump would, look, make America great again means taking the country back to the 50s when Trump was young, when blacks and women and gays and Hispanics didn't really have rights, certainly not the rights they have today. And I think that's the country that Donald Trump would like to take us back to. It just happens not to be consistent with history.
I think that he would push back on that were he here, which would, let's face it, be a strange turn of events, given that, it's sat in Paddington. But I think that they would argue, the Trump administration would argue that what they would like to see is the ambition of Martin Luther King, which is a world in which you are judged on the strength of your character and a meritocracy. And they would say that the pendulum has swung too far towards identity politics and a hierarchy of oppression, let's say. So everybody sits somewhere on there and everybody has to feel oppressed and victimised in some way. And that they wouldn't want the history of America and the American story, which is remarkable, to be rewritten to make America appear cruel, weak, discriminatory. What do you say to that?
So I don't think anybody is really kind of bending over backwards to put the United States in a bad light. Again, what I think the Trump administration finds is to put things that happen in U.S. history, like slavery, that don't put the country in a bad light. They'd rather strip that out entirely so that people look back and look at the achievement. It's remarkable. And what that historian said, incidentally, pretty much every black person has been, somebody for whom slavery was in their history. This doesn't make him unique. But the fact of the matter is, I think this is a rhetorical exaggeration of what, quote, the woke left is trying to do. And if you went into the Smithsonian museums, of which there are many, I think what offends him is kind of, again, a representation of, civil rights leaders being shot. And the Brown versus Board of Education, the Supreme Court decision that said separate but equal was not correct, that was kind of stripped out because it was a reference to equity, as if somehow or other that Supreme Court decision was wrongly decided. So I just think that's where Donald Trump's coming from. I don't think we should make any bones about it. I absolutely agree that we should emphasize all the ways in which the United States is special and the achievements are remarkable.
I think another part of this, Richard, is that we shouldn't be judging figures of the past through the prism of what we would see to be acceptable standards maybe today. And that's Where do you sit on that? Where do you sit on that? Because a lot of museums will say, well, that could just be as simple as just changing an explanation on a plaque or whatever, you know, a sign on an exhibit. But most people aren't stupid. They don't need it spelling out to them, do they, that perhaps there were different societal and behavioural norms 200 years ago?
That I totally agree with. I mean, when we saw this spasm of schools in San Francisco and other places taking the name of Thomas Jefferson or George Washington or others off of schools because they owned slaves, that to me was loony. I mean, that really is asking people to look through a prism of today, back hundreds of years, when yes, slavery was just as wrong then as it is now, but it was kind of in a different context. And I think to have that kind of precision and basically say, no, we can't really honor Thomas Jefferson because he owned slaves, I think that's a mistake. But to also have military bases that honor Southern generals who kept people enslaved, I don't think that's right either. And Trump is not comfortable with that. He wants to go back and kind of rename these bases for these Southern generals that were representing the kind of embodiment of slavery. So I do think that there's a tension here. It's not all one or the other.
All right, Richard, thank you so much. See you very soon.
Good seeing you.
See you soon. Democratic strategist Richard Goodstein there. Oh, let me ask my panel. Peter Blexley.
I reckon Bishop Earl Walker Jackson would be good fun to go for a drink with.
I do.
I reckon Richard would be a tedious bore.
I can confirm I've been for a drink with Richard and he's not a tedious bore.
Oh, well.
But he is absolutely very much a Democrat through and through, and he hates President Trump.
Clearly.
Clearly.
Yeah. The woke virus, call it what you will, it is a virus and it affects America clearly, and it's causing so much damage over here. There will inevitably, at some point in history, be a reset. But of course, we need to remember that history is written by the winners. And maybe the Smithsonian Institute, the woke are winning in there at the moment. Maybe at some point there will be a recalibration and a bit more common sense will be applied.
Yeah. Lewis?
History shouldn't exist to make you feel bad about your country, but it equally shouldn't exist to make you feel good about it either. It should just tell the truth. And I think that that's both sides are trying to tell a version of history. It's just tell the truth. I do think, as a whole, though, it is sad to see patriotism down, you know, in America, but also here. And I had, you know, an upbringing where I spent a load of time with my grandparents, and so they made me feel patriotic. They could remember where the bombs dropped in World War II. My granddad could show you this went up, that went up, that went up, and how they all pulled together. And so hearing those stories from people you love makes you, you know, love the country. And then on the other side of my family, you know, my granddad came over from Jamaica, and he could tell you how awful it was being a black man back then and all the things that went on. But still, there's a bit of pride there. So I'm like, well, you obviously won those arguments, because now that's not happening on like to the level of what it was when you arrive. So there's a lot to be, even though there are negative things and history is very messy, I do think telling the truth and not trying to put one lens on it or another helps people grow and understand how we got to where we are.
And I think, Victoria, if I can bring you in on that, I think what Lewis has identified then is that kind of the horrible sense that you're constantly being preached at, whether you're watching a movie, walking around a museum. You know, I'm so tired of being told how to think and what to think when I just want the facts. Please don't try and dress it up to me to somehow make me be less discriminatory, because I'm not discriminatory and I don't need to be treated like that.
I mean, I think this ideology, the woke ideology, has permeated from college campuses into, you know, government, into the healthcare system, into K through 12 education. And, you know, I can understand why the Trump administration is frustrated with a lot of things that are being portrayed, you know, both in all of those systems as well as in the Smithsonian. You know, I saw an analysis of one of the exhibits that that was all about kind of protest and American politics, and most of the examples that were pulled for that exhibit were from left-leaning incidents versus only a handful represented right-leaning causes or instances or demonstrations. So I think just when you look at just straight facts like that, it's quite interesting to see how the Trump administration has come up with their concerns. The Smithsonian as a whole has traditionally been nonpartisan, and so I'm not sure of any other previous administration that has worked to interfere in their exhibits in a similar way. But I can definitely understand where the frustration is coming from on their end.
Eric, what's your assessment of this situation?
The Smithsonian is actually considered to be one of our great institutions in the United States. It's actually an educational institution. It's an institution that is meant to chronicle a history, but also too, we have to remember, like the saying, the past is prologue, which means that basically what came before is an introduction of what is to come ahead of us. And so what we've seen and what the Smithsonian is there for is to tell the story, the unique story of America's history, its founding, its birth, the nature of this country, how we got here, and telling that provides some very difficult and hard facts about our past, but it also shows the enormous progress. You have the Air and Space Museum, which talks about the challenges, the struggles to actually get to the moon. Those were indeed struggles, a lot of setbacks, a lot of hardships that the country had to go through in order to actually do that. And so it's no different from any other aspect of our history that we see play out. And oftentimes those facts about our history can be difficult for people to hear. But again, when you look at where the country has actually come from and where it is now, it's a story of triumph. It's a story of what the country is in terms of what Ronald Reagan said when he described it as that shining city on the hill. It's shining because of those struggles, because of what came out on the other side. And so it's not to be denigrated or somehow diminished, but it should be something that should be celebrated.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Beautifully put. GB News reached out to the Smithsonian Institution for comments, but we are still awaiting a response. Moving on, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos is reportedly close to agreeing a deal to acquire a minority stake in Liverpool Football Club. So according to multiple media outlets, Bezos is part of a consortium set to purchase a share of the Premier League giants that equates to about 30%. The investment would reportedly value the club at approximately £4.4 billion, making it one of the largest valuations ever achieved in a football club deal. Peter Blexley, why would Jeff Bezos want to own a third of Liverpool Football Club?
I've absolutely no idea. 50 years ago, Liverpool Football Club broke my heart.
Oh no, what happened?
As a 16-year-old Queen's Park Rangers supporter, we finished, well, there was a game of the season left to go. We finished top, but Liverpool had a game in hand.
Right.
They played Wolves away, they beat them, so Liverpool pipped us to what was then the First Division Championship, so, which is now the Premier League, right? The only time we've ever got within a sniff of winning it. And Liverpool broke my heart. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I've not been the same since. For the last 50 years, it's deeply, deeply affected me. However, they're a brand, it's corporate. I was walking around Liverpool's ground only a couple of years ago. I've been going to Anfield for donkey's years, not recently because we're in a different league, but when I went there, there's the most beautiful statue of Bob Paisley carrying off Emlyn Hughes on his back. Wonderful statue. And I'm thinking, what a great piece of work that is. Reminds me of supporting football in yesteryear. And I walk around the back and there it is, sponsored by a bank. And you go, it's got so corporate. And the football has, ever since Sky came in and changed it and revolutionised it, and all to the benefit of the players, and trust me, not to the benefit of the supporters, it's become a different game from the one that I knew as a kid. But I'm not surprised. Brand awareness, money.
Funny. Let me ask my Americans on this. Forgive me, Lewis, just for a minute. Just want to know what they make of Bezos wanting to own a share in Liverpool Football Club. Eric, what's this about? Do you know what? There's a couple of connections that are pinging into mind. It's Ted Lasso is that big American, British American production on Apple TV. Where Hannah Waddingham, the British actress, is in it. Brilliant series. That's kind of an American story about a British football club, mythologically set in Richmond. And then you've also got the who are the American actors who've owned
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, thank you. What's the football club?
Wrexham.
Wrexham, thank you. Well done. We got there with our cultural references in the end. Thank you, gentlemen. Eric, there's this kind of zeitgeisty connection of American celebrities and British soccer.
Well, I think my question is, why only 30%? I mean, he's so rich, he can buy 10 soccer teams. And in the United States, major sports teams, they don't actually they don't come up for sale very often. And so they're pretty much hot commodities. We know that he purchased the iconic Washington Post, and it seemed like that's something that every uber billionaire seemed to see as an asset, purchasing a major media property. And so I think media properties, sports teams, when you're super rich and you have so much money, you're looking for things to buy. But again, the 30% seems pretty interesting to me, because it seems like he could very well easily just purchase the entire thing if it were up for sale.
Victoria, do you have any insider information as to why Jeff Bezos is getting involved in Liverpool Football Club?
No insider information, but just my 2 cents are, Jeff Bezos is a capitalist. He loves having a diversified portfolio. Amazon started as a bookstore. It's gone to the point where you can buy anything and everything under the sun. He's expanded into grocery stores with Whole Foods and now Amazon Fresh. He's got Blue Origin and space. So definitely lots of things he likes to have his hands in, as Eric mentioned, media and now sports. I think this is just something else that he's adding himself into.
Victoria and Eric, if you do happen to bump into Mr. Bezos, would you please tell him that Queen's Park Rangers Football Club would be very grateful of any investment he wanted to make?
And Bury Football Club. Bury Football Club. They've not gone bust, have they? Do you know?
Yeah.
Have they gone bust completely? Oh, that's awful. That was my local football club. I didn't know they'd gone. They disappeared.
I don't know if they've been reinvented, but they did, go out of existence, didn't they?
Well, that's very sad.
I think locals might have rescued them, but they're not in the Football League, I don't think.
And I'm sure that if it wasn't nearly 3 o'clock in the morning, we could be making some good puns about Amazon, packaging, deliveries, and Liverpool Football Club.
Yeah.
But we haven't had enough coffee. We haven't had enough coffee over here, I'm afraid. So the headlines, no doubt, will be being written for tomorrow for the papers about that. Thank you so much, Peter, Lewis, Eric, Victoria. Thank you at home for watching. This has been The Late Show Live. I've been Bev Turner. Sleep very well. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of dry, sunny weather to be had through today, and it is going to be a bit hotter than yesterday, but temperatures rising further through this week. Now, there is some rain around across the north of Scotland. Here it will be cloudier and a few outbreaks of rain, but nothing particularly heavy. Elsewhere, for much of Northern Ireland, the rest of Scotland and across England and Wales, it is going to be dry. Not great news for those in desperate need of some rain with the ongoing drought, but yes, plenty of dry weather to come this week. And it is going to be a bit warmer than yesterday. Temperatures in the south peaking in the high 20s or low 30s, even further north where we get to low to mid 20s. It's going to feel pretty warm with generally light winds and some bright sunny weather around. Through this evening, a bit of rain affecting the Western Isles, perhaps Shetland as well. Elsewhere across Scotland, yes, there'll be some cloud across central, eastern, southern parts, but it should be largely fine. Northern Ireland staying largely fine as well, just the odd spot of rain towards the far west. And then for England and Wales, it's a dry picture through this evening, and we're ending the day in a similar note to how we'll have spent most of it, with lots of late sunshine. Overnight, England and Wales staying mostly clear and it will be dry. Scotland and Northern Ireland, however, it's cloudier. There'll be a few outbreaks of rain coming in, particularly western Northern Ireland and feeding into western parts of Scotland, and some of them could be a little bit on the heavy side. It is going to be a relatively warm night, temperatures holding up for many in the mid to high teens, particularly in your more built-up areas. Temperatures are rising further then as we go into Wednesday, with more hot air being dragged in from the south. So with that then, lots of sunshine for England and Wales. Scotland, Northern Ireland and the far north of England, a bit cloudier at times, and outbreaks of rain could be heavy, could be a bit thundery at times tomorrow, but they will be quite hit and miss. With all that sunshine and that hotter air coming into southern areas, well, temperatures are going to be even higher than today, peaking around 33.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight. On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me. Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin.